Hey, everybody. What's up? Good morning. Happy Sunday to you. You can see I got my Sorber panels in here. I got 2 amps mic'd up back there. I'm doing some stuff with microphones. I got tired of waiting for my other room to be done. And I got the PT15 cab mic'd up, and then I'm also going to mic up AC30 and stuff and just do some stuff over the next week or two with some microphones. Actually, I don't know if you guys know about this, but these are these clear sonic panels, which is the same stuff like Bonamassa uses live. These ones have these. This is pretty cool. I didn't even think of showing you guys this, but I'll just show it to you real quick. They have these removable panels. Just on there. I gotta be careful so as not to move the mics. These things, and you just put them on the inside of the plexi. And then, then the sound is getting soaked up. They're pretty amazing. Like if you do anything at home, any kind of home recording, you can put this here, and then I've got a big one that you can kind of put on top, and you can kind of surround the amps with it, and it'll cut your volume down by like, 60% or something. And certainly, like sitting right here, I can just sit right here with the amp cranked pretty loud. I mean, it's 15 watts, not that loud, the PT15, but it'll really just, it's not annoying. I could play with drums in the phones or whatever, and then just mic the amp right there, and it works really great. The panels really do a great job of soaking up a lot of the sound. So I like it. Sorber, they're called, Sorber, and they call this the amp kit, I think. And they make them in different sizes. You can get small ones, big ones. This is one of the second to biggest one they make, I think, because this will actually surround a 412 really easily, but you can get them much smaller. Pretty neat for at home and stuff. Cool. So abortive rather than reflective. I think you mean absorptive. That's from Matthew. Yeah. Like Bonamassa's that you see him use live. He's got a signature clear sonic thing and it kind of goes in a, you put him in front. It's just the plexi, but this idea is to absorb I would imagine this sounds a little better than just having the plexi in front, which is probably fine for live. But when you're recording, like having the microphone right there and then the sound hitting that plexi panel, I would think some of it bounces back and gets into the mic, and maybe doesn't sound quite as good for recording as using these things. Which, if you've got a hard floor, which I do, and then you put these a few feet in front of the amp, you're going to absorb a lot of that ambient, but still get maybe a little bit off the floor, a little bit of life off the floor. I don't know. Anyway, cool product that I've put to good use over the last few years for sure. Just brewed a fresh batch of bean juice, says Mute That Bozo. I'm ready. I didn't have look at that George Tripp's way huge mug. I didn't have any of my normal coffee here today. Well, we got an espresso machine here, and all I do is I put like multiple capsules in, and then I put them. I make a full cup of coffee. So this is 3 shots of espresso. So I'm gonna be wired pretty soon. It's gonna be great. Jennifer is up in the top chat. What's up? Just want to say, break a leg this week. Love all the practice videos you posted. Yeah, I got to do that Queen gig this week, so that'll be fun. Thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Do I have a cold? It sounds like I do. I woke up really congested. I think it's just allergies. LA, man. You get in LA, you get the offshore winds and the onshore winds. And when they're blowing offshore, from the, oh no, maybe it's the other way. When they're blowing from the sea in, I think it's from the east out. Anyways, you get, especially, where I live at this point, it can be pretty like, air quality isn't the strong suit of where I live. That's for sure. So, first Sunday in 8 years with no responsibilities, says James, and the house to myself. It can feel good, can't it? Celebrating by ordering new pickups for a Strat. Suggestions, all singles. I mean, depends what you want, really. If you want a 50s thing or a 60s thing. I'm a big fan of the Sur V60 LPs, and as well as the ML style, but they've renamed them. I don't know what they call them now. I like those because I kind of like 60s pickups. The V70s are more like I think they make V54s too. V70s are kind of the lowest output and probably the least mids, the most sort of scoopy sounding in position 2 and 4. I'm a really big fan, if you like boutique stuff and you don't mind waiting for a while, I'm a big fan of Ron Ellis too. He makes some terrific stuff. Really, really, really great. And then if you want some noiseless stuff, I mean, I know Tim Pierce likes the Marzio, the virtual, what are they called? The virtual vintage, I do believe. But yeah, I mainly use the Surs, I guess. I've got a guitar with Ron Ellis, and he made pickups for my Telly that I love, man. I mean, transform that guitar. So there's some good options there. Most of my singles are Surs. Who else have we got here? Well, Ian Ferguson saying, good afternoon, everyone. What's up, Ian? And let's see. What do I think about Jackson Audio and the Bloom and the Prism and the Broken Arrow? I don't know anything about those, Mr. Braxall. Honestly, sorry, I don't have a perspective on those. It's one of the I've never tried anything from them. Pete, what are your thoughts on the new original line from Gibson? Is that a new Les Paul and 335 and stuff sorry, SG? They look great, I think. I looked this week. I mean, great. That's what I've been saying all along. It's just like, God, just go back and make the Les Paul standard and make a good quality one that's got all the right stuff. Make it SG. That's all anybody wants. And now they're doing it. So I think that's just awesome. There's somebody up in the top chat from Japan. Maybe the first person that I've ever seen from Japan in the top chat. They sent me 1,200 yen. I do appreciate that so much. And let me see. Sen. It's been a minute. Sen ni hyaku en. That's right? Sen ni hyaku en. Arigatou gozaimasu. I really appreciate that. And that's Kosei. Let me see if it Kosei Fukuoka. And I'm sorry, I don't think I can read this because I'm not up enough on my hiragana to read this right now. But it would to everybody to leave because I'd spend the next 10 minutes. If I picked over it for the next 10 minutes, I think I could figure it out. But thank you, Kosei. And what are your Desert Island DAW plugins? Desert Island ones. Well, when I think about Stephen Slate, the virtual mix rack has come in really, really handy over the last few years for me. For those who don't know, the Stephen Slate plugins, they use this is sort of like a subscription-based model. And so you pay, I think it's $14.99 a month, and you subscribe when you need them, and then you can cancel your subscription when you don't, and then you can't use them anymore. But there's everything in there that you kind of need, and they're really great. My favorite plugins are UAD stuff, but the Stephen Slate stuff is very low CPU drain and works really, really well for a lot of purposes. And there's compressors and gates and EQs, and they just brought out a gate that works great on drums. So I use the Stephen Slate stuff all the time, and it's a cool, subscription-based model. I'd give it a try if you need some good stuff. The FGX mastering plugin from Slate is something I use all the time as the final limiter on my master bus to just kind of get the level up. And I find for fake mastering, I call it, when I'm mastering as opposed to sending stuff to a mastering engineer, which is like in all my demos and stuff like that. I'm doing that stuff, and it works great for just getting the level up. Some other sort of more ones that I find myself using all the time. Stephen Slate virtual tape machine is really great for adding a bit of analog tape-like character. I use the Massenburg EQ. Millennia EQ. The mastering EQ. I use that a lot on the master bus because it's just real subtle and warm and smooth sounding, and it's great. You can just boost and cut a little bit and just shape your track. Just very nice. What else do I use? 1073 from the Neve 1073 from UA I use a lot. The PT100 plugin, of course, you got to try. I've had such great response to that plugin, and I got to give all the credit to the Brainworks guys and stuff for developing it because they really nailed it. But it's a great amp modeler plugin that if you just need to plug in and get a good tone, it's there. The bass amps from Brainworks as well. The like, for instance, the B15. It's like, just get that. It's like, if you play bass on recordings, the B15 UAD plugin it's just a no-brainer. It just works great. So those are some that come to mind that I really love and that I use a lot. Ocean Way Studios is amazing for a realistic room plugin. So check those out. Up in the top chat, we got a few folks. Thanks, guys. It's Haley Mason from Canada. And Haley says, Pete, what was the magic green stuff you guys used between the drywall? Oh, it's called green glue. If you search for green glue, like noise reducing, it'll pop up. You'll find it. Anything special between door jamb and framing to help you with noise? If you hit up Stephen Klein's Sound Control Room, search for that, Stephen Klein's Sound Control Room, and they sold me the you can see it in my door over here, the neoprene seal that goes all the way up around, and it completely goes around the doors. And this is stuff that's almost like wetsuit material. It's neoprene, and it's very thick and dense. And they will show you how to put that on both sides, so that one door closes tight against it, and then the other one closes tight against it. And you can do a double door and put in all this time and effort, and if that seal's not tight, it goes out the window, because all that you still get high end coming through there and leaking. As soon as that seal's tight, it's amazing how much it really cuts down on the noise. And my studio's only got a single wall. It's a 2x6 wall that's got 3 layers of drywall on one side and 2 layers on the other side, with green glue between all the stuff, and then insulation in the middle. But I don't have a double wall on this wall over here, which is the one that faces the rest of this place. It's not perfect is what I'm saying, and it's still pretty great. Like, if you get the door right, it's a little tough with a 2x6 door to get 2 doors that'll close in too, and to have enough space with the seals and all that stuff. They really had to. That's why there's 3 layers of drywall on one side and 2 on the other side. It was actually going to be 2 and 2, but they had to do an extra layer of drywall to make it all fit. So that's that. But yeah, hit up Stephen Klein's Sound Control Room, and they will help you greatly, I think, with dialing in. They got some great stuff there. The neoprene stuff ain't cheap. It was $160 or something, I think, to get enough to go around. You can go to Home Depot and find some similar stuff, I guess, but it ain't going to be the same as what is here. This is really top shelf stuff, and it really made a difference. Best affordable mics for recording acoustic guitars. Thanks for what you do, says Dave. Thanks, Dave. And that was Dave in the top chat. Thank you, Dave. Dave, I would say look at some of the, for affordable, like I did a demo recently for those Sterling mics, and they're $75 each. I think they're $149 for a match pair. And get those. They sound great, and you can do easily stereo XY miking or space pair or whatever. If you've got 2 mics, they're small diaphragm condensers. It's on my channel. I did it recently, so check out that demo and see what you think. Good mics on a budget for sure. I was really happy with the sounds I was able to get with them. I thought that little tune that I did turned out good for $75 mics. So cheap. I'm gonna go back up to the top of the chat just to make sure I don't miss anything. But Jason Carter says, I know you love amps, so I want to tell you that he picked up an immaculate all original 1956 Fender Pro 15-inch Alnico Jensen. Wow, that's probably a pretty sexy amp. I'm sure that sounds warm and wonderful. Congratulations. Sorry, I was burping. And Todd Smith says, thanks for turning me on to Holly Henderson. Her music is great. Awesome, dude. You bet. Her single came out this week, and more to come soon. Wait till you hear the rest of the record, because it's really fun and beautiful and deep, especially to consider that it was somebody that was like 20 years old when they wrote that stuff. And I did 2 co-writes with her on the record, but the rest of it is her. And even the co-writes, it's like it was definitely a 50-50, and she certainly wrote the lyrics and the melodies and stuff. So it's really her. You're hearing her on the record, her ideas, bridges, solos, the bridges. It's like when you listen to the level, the complexity of the composition and stuff that's going on, it's deep. It's really cool. So the record will be out in June, but there's a single is out now. And the single is actually, to be honest, I mean, just me being honest, it's not my favorite song or anything like that. There's stuff on the record that if you like the single, you're going to go, whoa, once you hear the whole rest of the record. So, you know, it's pretty great. For those that don't know, Holly's a girl. I produced a record here for her in LA. Like when she was about 20, she came over here and we did this album together, and it's finally coming out now. She's like 23 now. She's been a minute to try and get it finished and get it out and stuff. But it's a great first thing. You know, I'm just really proud of her, and I'm proud of myself and proud of us together and the work that we did and the whole band. It's John Button and Blair Cinto on drums, John Button on bass, Jevin Bruni on keys, and Dennis Martin on some keys as well. And yeah, I don't know. I think we made a really cool record. Doesn't sound like anything else that's out right now. And it's not for, it's funny because I put up a post about it on my Facebook, and a couple of people were like, pass, like don't like it or whatever. And then I went and looked at them, and it's like a dude with like a Jackson Kelly with a Floyd Rose or whatever. It's like, no, dude, you're probably not going to get it because she's like into the Smiths and Morrissey and stuff and the Cure. So it's a very different, I don't know. I got a wide range of stuff that I love. And one thing that I love is all that British music, So that's, it's a completely different thing from hard rock and shred guitar and all that business. And, but if you dig some of that stuff, you hopefully will like what she does. It's distinctly, deeply British edge going on there. GR says the Waves PRS plugins are great. There's an ad that pops up on my YouTube video for those plugins. I guess the guitar amps plugins, right? The guitar amp plugins that PRS did, and they do sound good on the ad. They sound pretty cool. Tone Talk's in the house. Mark, what's up, man? Good to see you. And what else we got here? Like there's some good questions so far today. You guys I'm a little tired today. I was out kind of late last night, so you guys are helping me out here with some great questions. It's waking me up. What else have we got? Old Guy's Guitar Vlogs in the house. He's always faithfully here. I appreciate that. Hey folks, he says, in and out today. He's shopping with the kids. Enjoy, dude. Enjoy. Happy Cinco de Mayo, says El Scott to Music. Lauren, thank you, sir. Yeah. Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo, folks. So, let's talk a little bit more about those new Gibsons. What do you guys think? They look pretty good to me. Especially the SG looks great. I love that, it looks right. It looks like an old one. Gold top Les Paul looks good. That dark the dark burst finish on the Les Paul, I don't know. That's the only thing I was like, sort of like, that was an interesting choice to go with that as being the one that they show in the ads and stuff. But looks pretty good. Really got to pick it up and play it and see what they play like. But yeah, man, I love that. That's exactly what I wanted them to do. Was go back and just like kind of at least start as a baseline, get back to the basics of making, the guitars that they once made. The classic model. Sorry, I'm looking at a rain nose. I think it's my allergies, like I say. But yeah, just a baseline, make a great Les Paul standard. And it even says standard on the headstock. I love that they did that, and they're calling it like 50s, standard. I don't know. It's cool. Who's drinking tequila already for Cinco de Mayo, says Chris. I'm going to avoid the tequila today. I got too much to do. Maybe later. Maybe I'll have one tonight. Okay, you talked me into it. I'll have one tonight. Leo says, thank you, Pete. Was watching a documentary on statues. Oh. Well, what kind of statues? Thanks to Pete Thorn, I now believe in myself, says Chris Cam. You are drinking tequila. Put out a video this week for my So You Want to Be a Pro Musician series, and it was called Believe in Yourself. All about sort of that baseline, like you have to believe. You have to have a deep core belief that you can accomplish things to even begin getting them done. That's kind of the basis on of what it's about, or that you've got something to offer, or that you're good enough. You have to believe all those things in order to, otherwise you shoot yourself in the foot. So that's what that one's about. Please share if you like the video. And we got 331 people online. That's pretty good. Nice to have you all here. So. Let's see. Leo says, I believe in myself too. Nobody will give a more mediocre performance when it counts most than me. Self-deprecating. You know what's funny about that is like we all are our own worst critics and all that, I find. But, if truth be told, like I watch guitar players, and then you're like, wow, that was a great gig, and they say, I suck tonight, and then I watch them on a good night where they're like, wow, I felt great tonight, and it's like, didn't really sound that much different than that other time I saw you. It's all those little things that we do when we make a little mistake, or we don't do something that's totally dead spot on the way we wanted to do it, or and many times, like, in that moment, like somebody can be talking to their friend at the gig or something, or not, tuned totally, you know what I mean? Like, unless it's a really catastrophic error or mistake, it's like the little things that stick in our minds as being like, oh, I sort of suck tonight, just go over most people's heads, including musicians that paying attention. I mean, I remember watching an Andy Timmons clinic at MI, he's unbelievable. And then, he played a song, he's playing the tracks or something. And I went down to see this clinic of his that was there one day. This is 5 years ago or something. And at the end, he was laughing at himself and going, "Oh, did you hear that mistake that or whatever? Yeah, sorry about that." And I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't hear the moment where I didn't know the song that he was playing. So maybe it would have been more obvious, but you know what I mean? It just goes over your head. And, as a listener. And so that's an important thing to remember, that, especially with in-ears these days and stuff, if you use those at gigs, it can be it's just like the guitar is pinpointed right there, but everybody else in the room isn't hearing it like that. So Torrance is in the top chat. Thanks, Torrance. He says, looking to build a pedal board with MIDI switcher, but I've never used a soldering iron, and my only knowledge is from watching Vertex videos. Tips. Who should I contact for help? Thanks much. Yeah, well, I was talking about this with somebody last night. It's funny, like saying how I suck at soldering, and I from the time I was a kid, I was changing my own pickups in my guitars, but I'd always get cold solder joints, but I know I could go on YouTube and find a video of how to solder properly. There's got to be videos on YouTube of like making my own pedal board and cutting the cables and stuff. So I would seek some of that stuff out if you really want to do it. The only thing is, I pay somebody to do it. I get my friend Dave Friedman to do it because he does it right. He's made a million of them and he knows where the little problems are and stuff. If it's a simple board with just like 5 pedals on it and they're just all going to be in series in a row, no loop switcher or anything, or maybe you are using a MIDI switcher, you say. See, right there, it's like you can get into problems with ground loops and, patching, however the pedals are going to be patched into your amp, if some are in the loop, if some are in front, and you can run into these situations where you need an isolation transformer to keep things from buzzing. And the more cables and the more, it's just like, I commend people that do it themselves, but if you're relying on it for, pro level gigs and stuff, like I wouldn't want to be playing a gig and looking down at a board and knowing that I'd done it. I want to know that somebody that really knows how to solder and cut cables and do it to length and knows all the problems and knows, for instance, like power supplies and just how much power they can reliably supply to the different pedals before you're going to need another one, as opposed to daisy chaining things and all that, you know what I'm saying? So I leave that stuff up to I've got no problem at this point in my life paying people to do things that I'm just not that good at. And then I'll go, in order to make the money and spend my time that I would have spent doing that thing, I'll go do something that I'm good at to make the money to pay for it, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I view it, that goes for plumbing and, yeah, mini home repair things, because I can go and make money playing guitar instead and then pay somebody to do that stuff that knows how to do it well. Sounds so lazy, doesn't it? But if you really want to do it, and it's more like from the hobbyist perspective, like you enjoy it and stuff, and you're looking forward to it, there's got to be a lot of stuff online about it, how to do things. And like I say, Friedman's a great resource, especially for if you need patch, like the Friedman patch bay thing, patch panels or his power supplies and stuff, and his boards are great. He's a good pal of mine, so I'm always going to steer people towards him and his stuff. As far as great tools and things for putting together boards, the things you need in order to put together something good. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Larry's here. He says, big fan of yours, glad to be here. Thanks, man. I'm glad you're here too. I am. Aloha from Hawaii, Byron says, rub it in, man. I want to go back. I was just there, and boy, oh boy, I had a good time. It's a really nice place. I love it there. Different speed. Okay. Yo from Philly says Matthew. And who else we got here? Let's see. Brennan's dad says, I like my replacement standard bridge Thorn Bucker. It seemed weird to jack up my Sir S Pro Classic with the black stock pickup, but you like your replacement standard bridge. So did you get a covered one with the chrome cover? Is that what you mean? I wonder. I wonder. Hi from Vienna. Man, that's a beautiful place. I have a nice memory the last time I was there, like going to a market in the middle of the city and eating sauerkraut. I miss going over there more. I used to go more to Europe. It's like I miss that place. So I certainly miss France. Been watching female blues players. Have I heard of Samantha Fish? I have heard of her, but I don't know her playing. Happy Sunday from Louisiana. What's up? Good to have you guys here. And Matthew says, cool cabs. Yeah, working on the miking of the cabs back here. And truth be told, if you look at my Instagram, I mic'd up, it sounds great, but I mic'd up the PT15 cab and then I compared it to the IR of a similar, greenback and a closed back cabinet that I've got in the amp with a ribbon and a 57. And they sound really, 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 really similar. So I'm confident that we've made something special. Like I said in the little video I put on Instagram, if you look at my Instagram story, you can hear the mics compared to the through the phone mic, but you'll get an idea that it's a very similar sound coming through my studio monitors at least. And like I said in that video, it's like, well, similar sound, but you don't need the cabinet and you don't need microphones and you don't need a $1,500 API mic preamp and volume and all those things. You can just get it right out of the amp with the IRs in it, or at least pretty damn close. So Leo says, every time Pete says I'm way behind, we have to drink tequila. I'm behind in the chat. Drink. Bad influence. I am. What amp do I keep home for practice these days? That's a great question. Nuex, the company that makes the Cerberus, they sent me a little practice amp. I lost somehow on my way back from Japan. I lost my Black Star. I had a little Black Star battery powered thing that's like this big, and I don't know what happened to it. So maybe it's in my guitar vault or something, but I don't think so. I think I somehow left it behind. I mean, it was $70, so it's no big deal. But Nuex sent me an amp it almost looks identical. It's almost the same size, but it's got drum beats in it. It's got these drum grooves in it, so you can turn on some grooves and jam along. It's got delay and reverb, and then it's this big, like one of those little battery-powered practice amps. It sounds great. It's a great little thing. So that's my practice amp at home right now. But I've also got the Apollo Twin at home and my computer setup and my Dynaudio monitors, my little studio that you guys, I was making lots of videos in my old place out of my home. That's what I would use, and I could sit there and plug into the PT100 plug-in or I can plug into the PT100 plug-in. Redundant. I've also got a Helix at home. So, it's kind of that stuff at home. It's mostly that modeling stuff. And then the little Nuex amp is really fun because I love the idea of like not having to less between point A and point B. Like if I just want to play, I just want to plug my guitar in and turn on the on switch on that little battery powered amp, and then I can just like start rocking out immediately. Turn on a drum beat, and then I'm grooving within like 10 seconds. That's really nice. I find if there's not too much effort involved, you play more. Like don't keep your guitar in the case, keep it on a stand with the cable plugged in to the little practice amp, and then when you make a cup of coffee and you got 10 minutes in the morning, you just go like, I'm just gonna jam for a minute, turn on the amp, and you tend to play more. When I got the little Black Star practice amp in Japan, I played more like in my hotel room because I would just leave it up on the little table in there, and I could just sit, every now and then when I'd be in the room, I just turn that thing on. It was just so cool to just the instant gratification. I know because I'm a little lazy, like probably a lot of us when it comes to practice, and it's like the idea of like, okay, I got to plug in and then turn this on and turn that on, get it. Sometimes I'm just like, it's more than and then I end up like looking at my phone or doing something. Honestly, like that's how it is, Whereas if you can just the point A to point B, if it's very short, that's why acoustic guitars are great. I guess you can just pick it up and play a little bit. And before you know it, you've lost yourself in it and you've been playing for a half an hour or whatever. And it was great. You know, you got a little bit of playing in. So anyway, yeah. I do want to get a PT-15 at home though. The problem is I want one here, so I only have one right now. The one, and it's like I need it here because I'm doing stuff mainly. I mainly play here these days in this room, so I spend a lot of time here. But I do want to have one at home eventually for the same reason. I can just turn on and it's hooked into my Apollo Twin, and I can just, you know, play it much like I do the little battery powered amp. Any chance of you playing with Thornley or Big Wreck again? I'm sure Ian and I have talked about doing stuff over the years. I would love to do some stuff with Ian at some point. You know, he's been very kind and gracious and supportive of, like, he's like, man, you write great riffs, and, you know, we got to do something together sometime, because he was, which I love, you know, the idea, because I love his writing. And he's just alluded to it a few times, and I'm all about it. I'd love to work with him. You know, he's an amazing musician, amazing songwriter, amazing singer, and, you know, he's a great guy too. He's just so sort of quintessentially, he's the quiet Canadian kind of, and you know, good sense of humor, and I just have fun with him. I don't know, I bonded with him from the first time we met. I just liked him a lot. I thought he was a good, just a cool dude to hang out with. So yeah, there's a mutual appreciation, I think. All right, I'm gonna find some more guitar stuff here. What's left to do in the speaker room, says Henrik. Well, everything. There's a guy that's actually a great studio builder that is going to build in what is really just a storeroom here. He's going to, for the mainly for the cost of the materials, I think he's offered to build you know, a room out. And so that to me is really brilliant. This dude is a friend of a friend, and he built a lot of things for like, I think he built from Michael Jackson and Prince and a bunch of different stuff. And he was just by here one day, and he said, I'll do it for, you know, just, you know, whatever. And so it's going to be a bit of an investment, but you know, so that's going to work out, I think. And it's just taking some time, because you just have to wait for him to have time off, I guess. But it'll be cool. Just going to build a simple little space that then we can, you know, have some cables running into, and put some cabs in there and stuff. And but this is actually working out. Like, even with the PT-15, it's not very loud. I was recording in here yesterday. I threw the mics up like I always do, where I think I like them, and then I pulled up the faders and recorded a bit, and it's like, sounds great. Like, and, you know, it's like, if you want to hear something through mics, I can do it right now in here. You just have to track with headphones on. You know, that's the only thing when I'm cutting the parts, because the cab's right there. Yeah. When am I going to play in the baked potato? I don't know. I would like to. Pete got the lights turned on at the start today, says Chris. That's true. Yeah, it looks better, right, today. Not so blown out. When will we get a video from you on the Boss Tube amp expander? I'd love to do one, actually. Yeah, I got feeling doing a video on it might be right up your alley. I should just hit them up. They haven't. They've said that they want me to do something, like to be in a video with some other people when we're looking at it, that kind of thing. I'd love to just get one and do my thing with it, honestly. So I am going to propose that to them. That, you know, can you just get me one here in the room, and then I can do the thing that I do, you know. Jason is in the top chat. Thanks, dude. He's from Canada, Jason Hobbs. He says, my channel was very successful at one point, over 10K subs. That's good, over 7 million views. But here lately, I've noticed a huge change in views and subscribers. What's up with these new YouTube algorithms? You know, I don't know. That's a great question, Jason. I don't know. I don't have a lot of perspective. Mine ebbs and flows, you know. It really does. My demo videos don't get quite as many views as they used to, but I put up one last week that's done pretty good. You know, a Seymour Duncan Dark Sun delay and reverb. It's got 13 or 14,000 views now. It did pretty well. Generally, for me, what I find is that if a video gets over 5,000 views in 24 hours, then it tends to kind of hang around that level, but get a few more. Like, and over the next few weeks, you might see it creep up to 7 to 8 to 9, that kind of thing. If it gets below 5,000 views in 24 hours, it tends to hang around down there. Like, it just all of a sudden, it doesn't seem to move from that point. If it gets over 10,000 views in 24 hours, it's got legs, and then I find it'll go to 20 within a week or something, and then it goes to 26, and then it's at just over 30 within a month or something. And of course, if you've got a video that gets over 20,000 views in a day, or 30, 20, 25,000 views in a day, that's going to be one of those ones that just goes beyond 100,000 like relatively quickly. I did that one with Taj Farrant, the 9-year-old Australian guitar player, and that video's got 107,000 views now. It got a little, it was just steady. You could see it, like, because people are interested in a young kid that plays guitar like crazy. And it still gets steady views, so I don't know, I don't know what it is. To be honest, I don't think about it that much. I just put out what I put out. I do what I do, and I figure it's, I put out a video on a tuner yesterday that got, I don't know, it's up around 6,000 now. I think that's pretty good for a tuner video. It's it doesn't always make sense to me, but the main thing is that you have to do things that are interesting, that you don't see everybody else doing. And I know right now, if I did my, Amps in the Zone Vox video, it's going to get good views because the other people just like those. So I got to get it. That's part of the reason why I got this thing out, and the mics, and I've got a great AC30 back there ready to go. I just got to have the time, which I don't think I'm going to have till I get back after the Queen extravaganza or Queen celebration gig this week, to get on that. But I got to do that. There's certain videos that just get views, I don't know. It's just got to be interesting topics. This is the tuner that by the way, that I did the video for yesterday. This is a tuner that has so it's a Providence, a company from Japan that makes great stuff, great cables, and some pedals as well. And this has a built-in Korg pitch black tuner. So it's like having a Korg tuner, but kind of with a patch situation, and a buffer built in that makes this thing kind of unique. So you've got an effects loop send and return here. There's the input and the output for the tuner. And then on this side, there's an effects loop. So you can patch in all your pedals here. Go to the first pedal in line, come back out of the last one back in here. And then when you mute, it mutes your whole pedal board chain so that, at the end of the chain, there's not anything like if you phasers on or flanger or a fuzz and you got coming through the amp or whatever, it'll just mute that when you go to tune in between songs or sets or whatever. So that's nice. But with the buffer in this thing, it'll also split out. You can use the send of the effects loop to split out to a second amp. So it's got a second use. If you don't want to use the loop in it, you could use it to split to an amp and a DI, for instance. So pretty useful. And the buffer sounds great in these. The Providence Vitalizer buffer is really, really good. So it's I was like, who's going to want me to do a tuner video? But then when I did it, I was actually, well, this is kind of an interesting product, actually. And it's something that when you think about it, it's like on a pedal board, like we all need a tuner. That's the one pedal that everybody needs, unless you want to use a headstock tuner. But who does that if you've got a pedal board, right? So if you've got a pedal board, you got a tuner on it for sure. Not everybody has a fuzz or a compressor, but everybody needs a tuner. So it's actually a pretty important product that, is crucial to every single guitar rig. So I guess it is interesting. And this is a really good one. So I like the Providence folks a lot. They make great stuff. The cables are exceptional sounding, really good, and not too expensive for what they are. Now, some people were saying that they have some issues finding this thing, but it is out and for sale right now. I know it's shipping, so I'm not really sure, but I was a little late getting my video out. It was supposed to come out at the end of April, and it's just I'm behind, as I always am. So I know that it's out there now. It's on their website and everything. Anyway, Jason, yeah, I wish I could help more with the YouTube thing, but just try and come up with some alternative stuff. That was kind of my thing with the Pro Musician series. I thought I got to come up with some other ideas. What can I do? And the first one I put out, it's got 52,000 views. That was the one on Don't Be an Asshole. But it's probably kind of a clickbaity title, like, oh, I want to see what he's got to say about, like, don't be an asshole. Okay. A couple of the other ones, like my one on how to learn songs, that did well. It's got like quite 25,000 views or something, I think. But some of them, like the one I put out this past week, hasn't done that good. It's like under 10,000. It's like 6,000 views or something. I don't know. Who knows? What drives the whole thing. You just got to do the best you can. Just continuously put stuff out there and try and do something that don't see everybody else doing. Hollywood, Jake Speed says, hey, Pete, I've noticed that a lot of people who try to get the old EVH tone use way too much gain. Agreed. when you're dialing in the Brown sound, where do you run your preamp gain? Amp dependent. Well, you have to, it's really helpful if you've got an old plexi that you've ever turned up, because that'll give you a great bass line. Like if you're trying to sort of copy that sound using a master volume amp or something, it's great to know what an old plexi does. So my recommendation is get an old Marshall or something, at least, you know, a newer plexi derivative or something, and turn it on 10 and see what it does. And then you'll have an idea of that level of gain and how the sound differs. There's a chewy thing with the plexi thing and this compression and how the amp kind of goes when you hit a chord that most preamp gain amps just don't really do. There's a different sound. I don't know if it's the phase inverter distorting or what it is, but when you're driving one of those old amps hard, and we got to remember that there's also a volume factor that was going on with a lot of these early guitar sounds, where just the sheer volume gives you the sustain, right? Stevie Ray Vaughan had sustain, and he didn't play that dirty. It was just tube screamer and Defenders. So that's where people fall short, is they try and simulate that sound at maybe a low volume with preamp gain, and it's really a completely different way of achieving a tone. So that's what I find, is that it's hard to, you know, it doesn't have to be crazy loud. You know, if you use something like a power station with a plexi, power stations like the, you know, Load and tube reamp, you can dial it in at a reasonable volume. But I would say, like with like a plexi, but I would say, you know, turn up the amp, get that thing going, and then dial it in at a level where the guitar is feeding back. Now you can back down the gain. Eddie Van Halen's famous for saying, he said this to me personally before, he's famous for saying that he turns things on 10 and makes it so they're going to blow up kind of thing, and then he dials it back just a little, you know, so that he likes to push it to the limit and go over the limit and then dial it back just a little. So that's kind of what you got to do with the old plexi, is like turning on. What you might find, a good trick that Dave Friedman originally turned me on to, is that the presence control, things can get a little unstable if they're on 10 on an old Marshall, and it's just wide open, you know, on 10. And so you can back the presence down to like 9 or 8, and it tends to make the whole amp just a little more controllable, like a little less out of control. And you can also back down that bright volume just a little bit, you know, from, you know, anywhere from 8 to 10, but it is pretty great if that's on 10. Somebody said recently too, it's that the bass has got to be on 10 for old Van Halen. I don't know if I totally agree, but I know what they mean. It's like there's, you know, an EQ on an old Marshall is subtractive. So when you turn anything down, you're kind of lessening the, I don't know, the gain and all that stuff, because the EQ is, it's just, if you took the EQ right out of the circuit of an old Marshall, now you'd have like just from the input to the whatever, you know, it would be wide open. You put the EQ in line and start turning things down, and you're actually like losing signal. So it's not an active thing where you turn the EQ up and you're adding. No, you're just letting the amp do its wide open thing is all you're doing. So there is something to that. Everything on 10, including the bass thing with the old Van Halen sound. But there's nothing like it, you know? And yeah, there's no substitute for a little bit of volume, and it's just not the same thing as like trying to get it on a preampy gain amp at a lower volume. So it's such a fun sound. It's probably my favorite guitar sound to just, you know, like an old Marshall cranked up. It doesn't have to be on 10 or doing necessarily the Van Halen thing, but an old plexi anywhere from like 6 to 8 to 10 on the volume, with the control on the guitar, just turning it down for clean. That's, if I had to have one Desert Island guitar sound, that would be it. You know, it's the most fun to me. Tim Corder is in the top chat, and he says, "Cheers, Pete." Cheers, my friend. That feels good. Good evening from Yorkshire. What's up, Chris Lee? It's Sunday. Are you having Yorkshire pudding? I used to love that, man. Sundays roast Yorkshire puddings. I grew up, you know, with pretty sort of staunch English grandparents, and man, the Sunday roast with it's good stuff. Yorkshire puddings. I probably screwed up my heart at an early age, eating like too many of those things. Just filled them with gravy and just delicious. I just got a text from Mr. Jared from the Tonight Show. Great guitar player. And I'll get back to him in a minute. Anyways, Pete, when are we going to hear the Axe 3? Says Mark. Soon. I will do that as soon as I can. I got derailed a bit because I have been using the AX8 constantly, which sounds great, by the way. I've been enjoying using it. I'm still trying to figure out the switching and the sticky patch change and all that stuff on it. I'm not quite, but it's working great for the Queen stuff because that's what I'm using this week at this Queen gig I'm going to do. So I've got the AX8 with expression pedal. Quite enjoying using it, actually. So that's been my Fractal thing as of late. But what else have we got here? Soon on the Axe 3, though. I got to get into it when I get back. After I get back from this gig, then I got more time. Do I give Skype lessons? I've done it. That's from Mick Mac. I used to do a thing with a company called Study with a Star, which was more like study with guys that play with stars. But it was like Sidemen, and you could go online to studywithastar.com and book lesson times. I would just open up times in a calendar, and then I could go on Facebook or whatever and say, hey guys, I got some lesson times open. Go to Study with a Star next week, and you'll see the times that are open. And then people would go on there and book, and it was pretty easy. I quite liked it. It was pretty good. That's going back about 5 years or something that I was doing that, maybe even more. And I haven't done it for a while, but I'll consider doing it again at some point. I did some for my album in this past year, the Pete Thorn 2 album release. We sold 10 Skype lessons as part of the pre-release. So it was neat, man. I did lessons with folks from all over the world. There was one guy in Italy, and this is amazing. I'm in Tokyo sitting there, and I did a lesson with this guy, and we're talking. And right at the end, he goes, okay, there's just one more thing. There's something special. And I'm just want you to see something right now. And I was like, oh man, what's this going to be? And he said, my mother's going to play guitar for you. And his mom, this lady comes, an older lady comes and sits down with a, sort of flamenco nylon string guitar. And he's like, she's prepared this piece for you. And all of a sudden this, and I'm in Tokyo, and there's this guy, I think he was in Madrid. And I think he was in Madrid. That's where it was. And his mother's all of a sudden performing for me. She was probably like 65 or something, playing this piece. And I just thought, God, this is amazing. It's crazy. I'm having this connection with this person right now, these people halfway around the world. What a neat thing. But so I do enjoy it because crazy stuff like that happens, and it's just really cool. But yeah. Shauna Marie Sings in the house. What's up? Nice to have you here. Okay. I'm so far back in the chat. Time to drink tequila. For the PT15, says Jim, will your choice of solo boost, clone style, and edge of breakup, Jan Ray pedals stay the same? Yeah, probably. For the most part. I'm really into the treble booster thing right now because of the whole Brian May thing. But I've been thinking about doing oh shit, I left it plugged in again, didn't I? I've been putting a battery in this treble booster pedal. I think it still works. A really low battery, so it probably still works, but I left it plugged in overnight. All right, check this out. This is the Pete Cornish double treble booster. What does he call it? The TB83 Extra. So this is called the Duplex. I believe he calls this on his website. Guess how much this pedal is? Guess. Somebody out there guess. How much is the Pete Cornish double treble booster? He made these for Brian May, by the way, back in the day. These were like when Brian played live, because originally he was a range master on the early albums. And then when he went out, Queen was getting huge or whatever. Pete Cornish did all of his rigs, and he replicated his version of a range master boost and put it in these boxes. And then Brian started using them, evidently. So all the 70s Queen stuff, was one of these. And this is two of them in a box. So what you can do is turn the first one on 10, run it into the normal channel of, a dark, really dark amp like an AC30, or even a normal channel on a Marshall, which is just a mud bomb normally, a Plexi style Marshall. Hit it with this, all of a sudden, whoa, it sounds pretty good. Then you can hit this second one for a lead boost, and it's a great guitar sound. I actually have to make a video about it because I think it'll be interesting. I started listening to some old Judas Priest this week because that's how they did everything in their early days, was normal channel of a Marshall with a range master going into that normal channel. And it's just this ripping cool. It's not like plugging into the treble channel on a Marshall and turning it up all Eddie Van Halen. It's a different sound that's thicker through the mids and really just has this like Brian May thing. Anyway, anybody going to guess how much this pedal is? Somebody's going online right now to look. It's probably the most expensive pedal that I've ever I've ever seen. Anybody got it figured out? 99.95 says Mark. No, 550 says Scott. You might be close. Robert says 1,000. Closer. I think you're closer. It's 600 pounds. 600 pounds for this pedal. So this is John Shanks, and he lent it to me. And Pete Cornish puts a seal on the side that says warranty void if the seal's broken, right? So you can't open it up. Oh, and it's got on the bottom, this one, an English sixpence taped to the bottom in a little plastic bag, so I can do the full Brian May if I want to. Thank you, John Shanks, for lending this to me. It's amazing sounding treble booster. I don't know if it's any different than any other Rangemaster style boost out there, but I will make some, you know, I got the AC30 back there that's primo, and I got this pedal, and so I got the tools to make a cool YouTube video. I just need a little bit of time to do it. It's fun though. Anyway, sixpence is a pick, yes, and I have the sixpence. 600 pounds was what I meant. To pounds, UK. You know, somebody's making jokes about weight. Tim is in the top chat again, and he says YouTube gave me another free super chat. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know they did that actually. Mark was in the top chat, and I missed him. I'm going to kind of go down a little bit further down in the chat here, so that I'm not so far behind in the chat. Drink tequila. Okay. Who else we got here? Awesome review of the Matthews pedal this week. Yeah, I did that this week as well. The V3 Architect, right? Interesting pedal. It's like a clon with a boost. So you can get a clean boost and a clon-y style drive in one pedal with a full 3-band EQ, so very tunable. Awesome guitar sounds on the demo, says Gary. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's just the channel 2 on the PT15 with the gain kind of low, like around 2.5 or 3. So it was just like a, you know, lightly broken up tone. And then I hit it with the boost for the first part of the song, the rhythm guitars, and then I hit it with the clon-y style overdrive for the lead. And if you listen to it, especially, you know, the isolated version, even, it's not harsh at all. It just has that real like fat, thick, it's kind of treble boosty in a way. Actually, it's a similar thing to the treble boost is almost a misnomer, I find, like with this even this Cornish pedal. It's not really, it's more like mids, you know, it's mids and upper mids and with some treble involved. But like you would think like a treble booster on 10, this guy, and it's going to be like, well, that's going to be really bright. It's like, no, it just brings the normal channel of a dirty amp, or a normal channel of a, of a, you know, kind of a neutral sounding amp. It just brings it up to kind of a normal level of clarity. And then if you got a treble bleed circuit in your guitar, you can roll down, it cleans up really beautifully. But without the pedal, it's just like mud bomb on those amps. And then you hit it with the second one on this thing, and it just is that, I don't know how to describe it. It's this expressive, singing, incredible sound. And like I say, into the SL68 or my old Marshall, it's a different sound than the Brian May thing, but it's not that different. It's actually, it's this amazing tone that it's Judas Priest is what it is, actually. Early Judas Priest, which is some great guitar sounds. But yeah, pretty awesome. I was so kind of into it this week that I actually wrote my next Premier Guitar article on it. It's all about treble booster maybe being the most underrated pedal, because it can really transform. If you, I mean, you can kind of have a shitty sounding amp, like a woofy, you know, if you got an amp that's like not defined and kind of bloated when you turn it up, hit it with one of those things, and it's like, whoa, all of a sudden it's like it's the combination of the pedal and the amp that makes for this amazing guitar sound that can be like, I don't know, I've never found a pedal that'll transform an amp in such a way as a treble booster. Maybe that's why they're the most underrated, because it'll just, originally that's what it was designed for. Those original, that's all they had, right, in England in those days, the AC30 with no top boost. That's why they put a top boost in the amp. It's a different sound though. It's not the same as hitting a normal channel with a good treble booster, which was originally, it was like a fix, you know, well, we need something that makes this amp not sound like crap because they were so dark. So they designed a pedal to do it, and it made this really incredible sound. Just, it's really neat. One of the first pedals too, really. I mean, had to be, right? I mean, like, I guess they were out in like 65, 66, because when we think about Roger McGuinn, he was using them. The Hornsby Skews treble booster was what Richie Blackmore used. Machine Head, many early Deep Purple guitar tones are treble booster in AC30, you know, and he used to play the 335. A lot of people say they like Richie more with a 335 and the treble booster into the AC30. Like that was their favorite. And then he went to a Strat later, and it was kind of about the look, as he says it. And he went to Marshalls for the look. You know, interesting. Presence always max, says Tetsuyama 511. Yeah, you can turn it down a little bit. Just make the amp a little less out of control. Just makes it a little more polite. It's okay. I love the idea in Swiss Army knife source, but you've already got an existing tuner and AB or interface box. It's a bit much. Oh, you're talking about the tuner. That was E-Jar. Yeah, but it's a cool tuner. If you need a new tuner or you're designing a new board, this Providence thing, pretty cool. I've used the TC Polytune for years, you know, but this has some different features on it that are going to work good for some people. You know, the switchable buffer. I'll tell you one thing that's really nice about the switchable buffer, and the switch is right there on the side. Boom, boom. It's not something you got to program. Is that if you've got a fuzz on your board, you could run into this thing, and for that one tune where you need to use a germanium fuzz or something, you can just reach down on your board and flip that buffer off. And then the next pedal you could hit after this could be like a germanium fuzz face or something, and it'll sound great. You'll get all that roll down on your volume control. And as soon as you're done with that tune, boom, just hit that switch back and your buffer's back on. And you're, you know, so that is a pretty, like when you think about it, for a certain type of guitar player that maybe univibe, you know, inline or any kind of germanium, anything, it's a pretty good idea. Of course, you can always run the fuzz in front of the tuner too, I guess. If you've got a tuner with a buffer in it that you can't turn off, I guess on your board you could figure it with the fuzz first in line. But I don't know. It's good to have things with options on them, and they're nice options and usable. Not right for everybody, but it'll be right for a lot of people. According to their website, there's no North American dealers for that tuner. Is the TC Polytune 3 with a buffer comparable? I guess so. I mean, if you can switch it on and off easy, you know, I don't know if there's North American dealers, but you can always order these from, like, I'm sure you can order them from Thomann or something. A lot of people, you know, these days, I mean, you can buy anything from anywhere. You can order them from China. You know, it's like you'll find the place if you want that tuner to order it from. Mail order. There'll be a way. Jason says your advice is much appreciated. I'm ready for the next step. That's Jason with the YouTube channel. Thanks, Jason. Okay, next down, Jasco Plumbing Supply says, hey Pete, a new follower, love the content. Thanks, man. Have you tried the Aston Spirit condenser microphones? I have not. I don't even know about those. I haven't heard them. What's that all about? Matt says, don't forget tons of reverb for an EVH tone. Absolutely, you got to have the plate reverb and a proper kind of plate reverb. I've spent some time trying to get it. The one in the aux works great for that. If you watch the Papa Stash video I did, I find it's really close. It's hard to get that exact, you know, Van Halen reverb, but it is really helpful getting that wash from the reverb. It's sort of an integral part of the, you know, the tone. Okay. Isn't it true that you reach like 85% of your max volume or watts after 5 or 6 on the knob? Yes. I mean, probably earlier. Because once the amp starts compressing and distorting and just, you know, it doesn't really get a hell of a lot louder. Like a Marshall. Don't you guys find that? Like an old Plexi or something, if it's on 5 or 6, it doesn't really get any louder after that. It just gets dirtier. I don't really hear them get much louder. Just thicker and dirtier. Depends on the amp. Every amp's different. EVH said in Billboard 5 years ago that he never meant the Brown sound for his guitar tone. He always famously said that he was talking about Alex's snare drum sound when he mentioned the Brown sound. But, you know, it just got taken. Should I believe that? He said the Brown sound was about his brother's drum. Yeah, you just said that. Thud like a log. That's what he said. He said when he mentioned it in an interview that that's what he was talking about. I'd see no reason for him to be not telling the truth when he says that. He's just talking about, well, I was sort of taken out of context or whatever, but it became synonymous with my guitar tone. That's all he's saying. What's my favorite IR, says Andy Ricks. If I had to only pick one right now, the one that is sort of my go-to in the PT15 is the 121 and 57 high gain all mic mix on Greenback 412. Now I'm using the Sir Greenback 412 in the amp. It's a little bit of a different sound than the standard Celestion 412 Greenback, but equally, you know, similar. I haven't actually tried their Heritage series I should go get those. Maybe I'll go buy them after we do this, and I can listen to those too. I'm just interested what they sound like. But they've got heritage greenbacks out now in 412s and 112s and all that stuff. I wonder how that one sounds. But I like what I found is with the Celestion IRs, they make an all mic mix, 421, 121, and 57. And then they also make a 421 and 57 mix, and they make a 121 and 57 mix. These mics I'm talking about are the Royer 121, right? Ribbon microphone. The Sennheiser 421 classic dynamic mic, and of course the Shure SM57, probably the most famous mic ever. So the ones that I'm gravitating towards these days are the mix of the 121 and the 57 without the 421. They make the all mic mix with the 421 in there sounds a little bit harsher to me, especially with my amps. Now it might work perfect for certain tones, but just with my stuff, I'm not digging it as much. Yeah, I tend to just prefer the 121 and the 57 high gain. The low gain ones are just a little brighter, and I find sometimes it's a little too much for me. The other one that's good from the Celestion range are like the dark 57. The balanced 57 is good, but it can be a little bright, like a little edgy for some tones. And that can be what you need for certain amps. But I like the dark ones for just sitting and playing and kind of a good, pleasant, it's probably like if you're looking at the speaker, here's a 12-inch speaker and there's the center. The dark one's probably got the mic out right in the middle or something of the in between the dust cap and the edge of the it's probably right in the middle. That's my guess from the way that they sound. They're not that dark. They sound just good with a little bit of the high end rolled off. Rico USA is up in the top chat, and he says, with your amp, Pete, did you custom cut your speaker and TRS cables to have all cable lengths the same? No, I didn't. I bought an amp, Pete, thanks to you, and I'm curious on how you handled the amp, Pete 88 cabling. So no, I just kind of grabbed every speaker cable and guitar cable I had lying around and ran them to the amps. So no, I didn't get that technical with it. So some of them have like a really long speaker cable going from the amp to the head. Other ones have like a shorter one that just barely reaches. That's kind of how I roll. Yeah. Had I, probably the right thing to do would have been cut all brand new cables and all right to length and stuff. But no, I'm using a mix of stuff, kind of a mix of like, what are the Diodario brand cables, which I really like actually. The Planet Waves. There's some of those. There's a lot of the Providence cables go into the amps. A lot of Providence cables because I have quite a few of them. Yeah, it's a mix. It looks like looking right now, it's a mix of the mainly the Planet Waves and the Providence cables, or the guitar cables, which are quite the Providence ones. If you get the right ones, are quite low capacitance, and so the difference between like a 10-foot and an 18-foot or whatever isn't great in tone. They just sound really good. The speaker cables are a mishmash of stuff. Speaker cable, as long as it's good thick gauge, and you can run anything up to it doesn't really matter that much if the gauge is long. If the gauge is fat, excuse me, like if it's a thick gauge and if the cable is up to 20 feet or whatever, it's not going to make any difference. You can go anywhere from 5 feet to 6 feet to 20 feet to 50 feet, even, okay, maybe, I've got 80-foot speaker cables going from this room to where my cab room will be. Dave Friedman was trying to convince me to make them 100, and I said, let's just do them a little shorter. I think it's going to make it fine, and because he cut the cables for me. And he's like, I think, but point being that if you got a good thick gauge, sure, you want to keep them as short as you can. But I mean, every major recording studio in the world where you isolate a cabinet in the other room, imagine it. You've usually got the heads like this in the control room. And then you've got a room that's pretty far away that you got to run a speaker cable through, usually through like patch box on the wall, another speaker run on the other end, finally going to the cabinet and all that stuff. That's how many of your favorite guitar recordings were done, with the guitar player sitting in the control room and the speaker very far away and mic'd. Those were long cable runs. So you don't need to, it's not that big of a deal with the speaker cables, as long as it's high quality speaker cable that's real thick gauge. I did tests, like where I plugged in a 6-foot speaker cable with a head in the live room. This is my old studio in Santa Monica. And I recorded, played a little bit, and then I ran long ass speaker cables, like, whatever, 80 feet, and then played the same thing with the head in the control room. And I was like, I don't really hear a difference. I can't tell. A little clean, a little dirty, really listened, and I'm like, it's fine, so I wanted to just test it for myself. Any thoughts on a Laney TT50H? I don't know that amp. I'm sorry. We don't have a lot of Laney amps here in America. You don't really see them. I like them when I see them at NAMM. I look at those, the new Supergroup and the kind of the recreations that they do. They've got some new pedals out that look really cool too that I saw at NAMM. This reminded me I'm supposed to contact them about that. I think I had an email exchange a couple months ago with them that I'm forgetting about. Anyways, Jennifer is in the top chat again. Thank you, Jennifer. If you re-implement Skype lessons, you could sign me up as your first student. And of course, that's silly, but I could really use personalized coaching guidance from someone at your level and expertise. I will keep that in mind. I'm not ready to do it yet, but at some point I may do them. It's a good way to kind of on the road to, when you got some off days and stuff to fill some time. And I like teaching. I do. Yeah. Greetings from Netherlands, says Vendalo Z. Yes, we have guitars here. I know you do. I love the Netherlands. I've spent quite a bit of time over there in my years. One of my favorite places to visit, actually. I have a lot of fun there. A couple of years ago, I actually had when I was coming back from the first GitCon, I had a plane that was going from Nuremberg to Amsterdam, then Amsterdam home to LA. That's where my stopover was. And, changing planes. And the plane left Nuremberg a little bit late. Well, substantially late, like maybe an hour. And the connection was kind of tight. And they came to me on the plane. They said, Mr. Thorn, we're sorry that you're not going to make your connection. And once you get into Amsterdam, you'll have to go to the counter and we'll work on getting you rebooked. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So sad. I got to stay in Amsterdam. I love Amsterdam. So I ended up staying there overnight and stuff, having a great day and just, going out to eat and just appreciating that city because it's a great place. Anyway, it was really nice. I was stoked. So stoked. I remember I had to get my taxes done. I had a tax appointment, and I was going to literally get back into town. And then the next now I had one day to do my taxes and I was going to, have that full day to do them. Now I was going to get into town super late, one night. And then I had to go do the taxes at 2 p.m. the next day. And I was like, I don't care. I'll stay up all night doing my taxes if I get to hang in Amsterdam for a day. So it was fun. That's the first time I've been there in 5 years or something like that. But it was nice to visit again. Beautiful place. Okay. You're an inspiration to improve and keep getting better as a musician and more importantly as a person. Thanks, man. That's L7D. That's a very nice comment. I appreciate it. I don't know. I just I'm stoked if anybody listens to anything that I spout, but figure it's got to be worth something. I don't know. I hope so. Kitchen Marshall says, hi, Pete. Do you own a short scale guitar? Like beyond Gibson scale? Not really. I guess I've got Dan Electros. They're probably short scale. I'm not really coming up with anything else. Somewhere I should get it too. I have a mini Flying V, and it's like my second guitar that I got when I was a little kid, and it's more for sentimental reasons than anything. But that guitar is in storage up in Edmonton, I think. So I got to find that guitar. Other than that, I don't think I have any short scales. Is it true that Eddie had a Gibson 57 Plus in his guitar? I don't have any idea. Could have had one of those in one of his guitars. I don't know. Going to be on the Tonight Show? That would be awesome. No, I don't. No, I don't know anything about Tonight Show. Oh, that's Jennifer talking, I think. I don't know anything about the Tonight Show. Hey, Pete, I've been on the Tonight Show. Not in recent times. I think I've been on the Tonight Show more than any other TV show that I was on. I was on something like 15 or 16 times, during the Jay Leno period. To the point where it was I knew most of the crew. Who walk in, hey Pete, what's up? Good to see you again. Just for a while there, where you play with artists, you do a lot of TV. It was that was a show that always got booked in LA, and just ended up doing it a lot. The Tonight Show was tough. I'll tell a little story about that. Like, you used to get it was on not far from where I am now. It's over in Burbank, on the NBC lot, and you get there pretty relatively early, not that early, but like 10 a.m. or whatever. But the show didn't film till 5:30. It started taping, and so the time spent from like 10 a.m. until like it'd be like 10:30 would be like a camera blocking, or maybe no, 10:30 was sound check and rehearsal. And so you do 10:30 to 11 or something. You'd go down and check your instrument. Everything would be all set up. The crew would have set up, all the stuff already. And you go in and play, get some sounds from 10:30 to 11 or so. And then you'd have an hour or two off. And by 1 or 2 or something like that, you'd go do camera blocking, which is where they figure out their shots and when they're, the guitar solo is here, focus on this guy or whatever. And then from like 3 p.m. till 5:30 or 2:30 p.m. till 5:30, you'd be off. And there was like nothing to do. So I can remember like sometimes going to Acapulco across the street and having a margarita. That would be about as adventurous as we'd get. Or, you'd go down to the commissary, the NBC commissary, and hang out downstairs. You go check out Jay's car, because Leno's got this insane car collection. And so out front, there'd always be like his spot, and there'd be like a 3-wheel roadster of some crazy sort, old Packard, or like some kind of crazy car parked there. And he would always come up. He was very nice, Leno. Very, very, very nice guy. A lot of those guys, I was on Letterman a couple times. I never met him. A lot of them were just kind of like, they'd go say hello to the artist, and that was it. But Leno made a point to come in and always say hello to everybody, and I remember having a great discussion with him once about driving I'd heard about him getting one of the first fuel cell Hondas that they had out a number of years ago. It was a hydrogen powered. And he came in and he said hello. And I said, hey, excuse me just a second. I want to ask you about that Honda, like, what's that like driving that car? Like, you can go 600 miles or something on a fuel cell. And he's like, oh, yeah. It's amazing. He said, I did a TV thing recently where I drove it and I went really, really far. And he said it emits, or I let it run for a while as well. He said he put a glass under the tailpipe, and he said it emits nothing but water. So he said it fills up with water over a period of time if you just let the car run. He says, I drank the glass in the show. So I don't know if anybody remembers seeing that, but I thought that was cool. But anyway, we had a laugh about that, and he's just a very very nice guy, just really personable, and I liked his just kind dude, and that, he came from nothing. I know that. He came to LA with no money and, was just trying to make his way as a comedian. I saw him once do stand-up actually in Canada when I was a kid in the 80s. He came through and did stand-up at the, the convention center, I think it was, in Edmonton. And he was great and funny. And I don't know. He was, I don't know. He left me with a good impression. Anyways, any thoughts on how to tackle ground loop noise? That's from Angus. Yeah, you need an isolation transformer. I showed you guys that last week, actually. Look for a Palmer isolation transformer or EBTech hum eliminator. Those are a couple things that you can look for, products. And you will find some interesting products there that'll help you. It's always good to have. I've got an EBTech hum eliminator that I found in Sam Ash used for $20, and it's got 2 channels of isolation transformers in it, so an in and an out and an in and an out. And that thing basically, it's just 2 channels that you can use anywhere in your rig. So I actually need 2 channels of iso transformer in my rig, my main touring rig, coming from a wireless to the input of my pedal board. I need one, and coming from the effect output of my pedal board to the second amp return. So the second stereo path, when you're using 2 effects loops and get 2 amps in stereo, that needs an iso transformer too. That eliminates both those ground loops. So that one little $20 box from EBTech that I found used in Sam Ash, I saw it there one day and I thought, that's a good thing to have for cheap. It was sitting in the like used pedal section. I picked it up. Anyway, if you look for that double channel, it's got 4 1/4-inch jacks on it, in and out and in and out. It's called the EBTech hum eliminator ×2 or something like that. That's a good thing to have around in your toolbox. Just carry it with you everywhere. Lauren says Yorkshire pudding. He used to work for the world famous Ranch House restaurant. On a good night, prime rib cut and Yorkshire pudding. Oh my God. Yeah, I know. It's good stuff. I grew up with that. That was just comfort food, English style. Hey, Pete, what's your opinion on the MXR 5150? Cheers from Uruguay. I got good sounds out of that thing, I think, on the video that I did with it. George Tripp's designed it, and he's a great, George Tripp's. He's a great pedal designer. Incidentally, designed the Line 6 big green delay, that the delay modeler as well as the modulation modeler, and all the way huge pedals, and now is MXR. But yeah, MXR 5150, great sounding drive. That in my video, the first one, I mainly focused on old Van Halen sounds, like trying to get a cranked plexi sound out of it. I thought it sounded really good for that, because a lot of people when it first came out were saying it's only good at the higher gain, the newer stuff. Yeah, so all right, I'm going to move down in the chat a little bit again. And have you ever seen Daryl's house? He jams with other people. It's a cool thing he's doing. That's Mike. Yeah, the Live at Daryl's house, it's called, or whatever. That's a great show. I quite enjoy them. I like the CeeLo one was really good, and the Billy Gibbons one. Joe Walsh was great on there too. It was really cool. Who else was really good? Trying to remember. Number of people left a really great impression on me watching that show. But Live from Daryl's really well mixed, and Paul Pesco is a guitar player, and he'd play a Badger on there a lot with Sir. And that's a number of years ago now, right? I'm not sure if they're still making them. Are they? I haven't seen it. What channel is that show on? Does anybody know, or is it just on his website? Because then it was on Palladia, I think, for a long time, but now Palladia is not a thing anymore. I don't know. Somebody's in the top chat. It's greetings from Ontario. It's James. What's up, James? Thank you, sir. Hope you're having a good Sunday up there in Ontario, Canada, my homeland. Miss that place. I like Ontario. That pedal show did a great video on Overdrive pedals, says Odin Stan. If that's so many videos. Did I build an ISO cab yet, says Preston Smith. It's not going to be a cab. It's more going to be a room, a small room within a room. That'll be an actual, like, you could open a door and walk into it. So I'm not a big fan of ISO cabs per se. I find they sound boxy. So you need volume. And by volume, I don't mean like turn it up. I mean like space in order for cabs to sound good, I find. So, but it'll be coming pretty soon. See, I'm so far back in the chat. I'm at the point where everybody was trying to guess the price of the treble booster. Okay. Let's see. Guitar technique tip, says Peter. Peter wants to know a guitar technique tip. He says he plays okay, but I have always burnt through thinner picks like my 88 Sharp Dunlops in a matter of a few sessions. I was playing right now watching this and the pick went dull. That's interesting. I don't know. Do you pick at a weird angle? Maybe try a different kind of pick. Maybe it's the I find my Ultecs don't wear that quick. I mean, I can use one of these for a whole gig. I'll be like Ingve. It's a Ultex 0.73 millimeter, but it's got my name on it. You can get black Ultecs now, by the way. You guys probably know that. They started doing them for Metallica originally, I guess. And this has a little bit of an edge on it, this pick. But I like these because they tend to last a long time. I want to try something else, actually, from Dunlop, see what else I got, other materials. But these have worked good. I've used them for 10 years. I've got, what do I got in here? Check this out. Here's an old, I have bags of these. This is an old Chris Cornell pick with my name on one side and then his signature on the other side. We got tons of these. And I use these sometimes too, but these are kind of like a Fender medium, or maybe like between a medium and a heavy. And they're just a standard material. Yeah. They're going for $80 on eBay, says Jennifer. You got to be kidding me. Are you serious? Well, anybody want to buy this pick for $80? I used it. It's got wear on it. That's wild. I guess I could sell the bag I have and then go on vacation. A nice vacation. I think I probably have like hundreds. It's wild to me that it's wild what people will pay for things, isn't it? They're just picks. They are just picks, but I guess they're memorabilia. Cheap Trick was also good on Daryl's house. Oh man, Cheap Trick, always great. Always great. Love Cheap Trick. Dax is a pal of mine, Rick's son that plays drums now. He's a great guy. Super cool guy. Okay. Looking for more guitar-related questions here. Tusk picks are really awesome if you haven't tried them. I have not tried those. I use Gravity picks now. They cost a couple bucks for a piece, but they last forever. Yeah, I'm a Dunlop guy kind of through and through when it comes to picks. I like the ever use Clayton picks as L. Scott Music? A little bit. I like the thin ones for acoustic guitar, the Claytons. Somebody else is up in the top chat there. Captain Sexy. What's up? Hey Pete, please tell me about your new Sir Classic, the blue one. Hugs from the Captain. Well, it's a great guitar that I've had for a long time, but I don't like the neck on it. It has a very wide, thin neck. It was a guitar that I borrowed from them really like 10 years ago and then just didn't give back, I guess. But they're gonna make me another neck for it. And you know, I love the neck that's on my here, let's look at these two guitars. We'll look at a couple of Sir Classics here. This one, whoops, this white one is one they made me a few years ago. John wanted to experiment with roasting body as well as neck on this. So you can see the wood is quite dark in the holes. That's because it's a roasted piece of alder. So it's not mahogany or something. It's roasted alder, so it's dark. This guitar has a medium, or no, I think it's the 60C standard is the neck shape on this. So a little different than the one on my signature series. And it's a 9 to 12 radius on this guitar. So compound radius, but 9 to 12, 21 fret. You can see even in the shine on the frets there, I think that the neck has a little bit more curvature to it than, you know. This is a really, really comfortable neck for a classic. 60C standard, 9 to 12 radius just is a nice feel for a Strat, I find. For, you know, there's something about a Strat where I want it to feel like an old Strat. I don't know, when I pick it up. I don't want it to be too flat. Having said, I'm totally contradicting myself because I've ordered a new one that's got my Jackson D neck on it. You know, that's more of a kind of like a shredder classic, but I can't wait to get that guitar. But this one, this is, if you want a good, you know, like you want a close 60s kind of feeling thing, I would really recommend the 9 to 12 radius. Is just a, you know, really playable, and the 60C standard. Now this guitar has a very, you'll be able to see maybe just looking at the frets, it's much flatter. Maybe you can't, but this would be a 10 to 14 compound, but the neck is real thin. So it's wide and thin. So I've never really bonded with that. So I think I'm going to do the same thing on this guitar as this guitar. I'm going to ask them to do a 21 fret. Because you know, you see the end of how they do the you know, there's something that I love about the 21 fret on the Sir with the rounded end, and I don't really need 22 frets with the squared off. You know, there's something on a Strat. I like it to look like, I don't know, that little curvature there. I like that look more than I like the extra fret, is what I'm getting at. It just looks more like a, you know what I'm saying. So anyways, so I think I will do that and probably have them switch the bridge on this one, the blue one, to a the new bridge that I'm using on my signature guitar. And yeah, then I'll just have a 3 single coil with the new bridge, and it'll be kind of like a you know, like a, what do they call those, you know, Fender when they do the kind of like player modded, you know, like basically vintage but kind of custom upgrades or whatever, to make them real playable and stuff. The white guitar's got a 6-screw bridge on it, which is my only Sir that has a 6-screw, you know, vintage Fender style Strat bridge on it. And a lot of folks think, you know, that the tone's different, and it's, you know, that's a Scott Henderson thing, and you know, they like those 6-screw bridges. They don't like the 2-post one. So I'll keep that one for that thing. It's good to have a little bit of variety, I think. Surfby says switch. He just picked up a new Overdrive and Reverb. It's a Cornerstone Sparkle Drive. Isn't there another pedal called a Sparkle Drive though? It's the Voodoo Lab, right? Can they have a pedal called Sparkle Drive too? Is that okay? I guess they can. Really nice pedal, similar to a Timmy. Timmys are nice, similar to Genrays, I guess. They say. I've never played a Timmy ever. Never tried one. Isn't that weird? Very popular pedal, and it's just one that I never have had around. Ever use a Floyd setup? Yes, I got a Floyd's on a few guitars. I have one on the. I got a Sir back there. It's like, well, you can't see it, but it's got the original style Floyd with no fine tuners on it, and pretty cool. I'm preferring the Wilkinson bridge that I'm using on my signature guitar, just because it's a little more like a typical Strat bridge, you know, and basically gives you the exact same degree of tuning stability as far as I can tell. I have a Floyd on a couple other guitars, like my EVH has a Floyd on it. It's just right for that guitar. And I have also my Van Halen kind of kit guitar, which is the black one that you see me play like in the 5150 video. And that's got a Floyd on it, an old one from the 80s. And I have a Floyd on a Sir Modern too. So occasionally, you know, I will use them. Okay, we're all off the rails today, says Chris Cam. Chris, that's just because you're Cinco de Mayo and you've been drinking whenever I say I'm far behind in the chat. Drink. Sorry, I don't want to be a bad influence. Apologies. You started it. You told me those were the rules. Hey, Pete, new follower. Love the content. Have you? Oh, that was the question about the condenser mics. I'm too far back in the chat. Sorry. I'm gonna move down a little bit here, you guys, and find another. I like the Jazz 3 XL, says Paul. Yeah, who still uses Jazz? I used Jazz 3s for a while, but the only problem I have with the Jazz 3 pick is that I find it's difficult to play some rhythm guitar with it. You know, they're great for accurate lead stuff, but it's most of the time you're playing chords, you know? That's the only thing, you know? Okay. Yeah, Jennifer says she hates that people are making money selling his logo and name. It is weird. Like, it's just a pick with a, you know, we're talking about this Chris Cornell pick here. We had these made back when I was in the band, and it's a strange thing. I don't know. People, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, that is weird. You know, little strange situations. What else have we got here? Moving down. High five from Norway. What's up, Norway? What are my thoughts on Harley Benton guitars, specifically your model? Hey, it ain't my model. They copied my guitar's look. You know, it's just a look, and it's a Strat style guitar, right? That has a certain finish, you know, and pickup combination, but it ain't my guitar. You know, they're not using the same woods, they're not using the same parts, they're not using the same pickups. It's just they copied the aesthetic of the guitar, so there ain't no patent on that. It's just a look. Unless you're Eddie Van Halen, then you better not make a stripe thing, or he's coming after you. But yeah, there's no patent on a look of a guitar. So if somebody likes the look, I mean, it's nothing stopping anybody from making a Strat style guitar with, you know, a blue or black top and binding, and then a different color back and that kind of thing. It's just an aesthetic. But to get the parts and the sound and the feel and the craftsmanship of some guy in, you know, like Elsinore, California, building it and getting every single thing just so, that ain't something that you can just copy, you know. So do you feel the difference between a Fender Strat and a Sir Strat? Well, no two Fender Strats or no two Sir Strats actually feel the same to me. So, I mean, that within reason, you know. My signature guitars all feel pretty damn similar. I'll tell you this, this was a very interesting thing, and it's a true story. When I went to go do my clinics in Canada for the first time, my recording production for the Modern Guitarist Clinic, they had one of my signature guitars in stock that was the same color as mine. And I had it sitting on a stand. They sold it that night, I think. And then I had mine. And I picked up theirs, and I was just getting the pedals going and stuff and everything going and playing. And I played for a while and didn't realize it wasn't my guitar. It was their guitar, you know. And I just didn't even clue into the fact that it wasn't mine. And I thought, well, that's a great, if I can pick it up and I don't even know, then it's not my guitar. That's a pretty good. So they're pretty damn consistent. But all that said, like no two, like you pick up different Fenders and they feel different. So if you get you could order a Sur with a similar neck shape and a similar everything to a Fender, or probably vice versa, and you might um, get pretty close. I don't know. I haven't bought a new Fender because I kind of use Surs now for my Fender style guitars. So I haven't actually purchased one. And I mean, the last Fender I bought would be my old one in 2007. So I pick them up in stores every now and then just to feel them and see what's what. I will say, I mean, a lot of the custom shop stuff, they do have a great dry ring to them. That play a lot of the Strats and custom shop Strats and stuff like that. They seem to be making really good stuff too. But yeah, I don't know. John Hernandez says, "Do you know what tunings were used on Euphoria Morning that you learned from Chris Cornell? The chords in some songs don't sound like they are in standard." Euphoria Morning, some stuff is capos, and most of the stuff that when I think about Mission and that's standard tuning, I think. The alternate tuning Chris Cornell songs are really like Seasons and a lot of stuff on Super Unknown, like the song Super Unknown has that dropped A string, dropped low E, My Wave, and Day I Tried to Live, which is all roots and fifths. It's Fs and Cs. I think it's not E's and B's, it's Fs and C's, I think. And then Seasons is E's and B's. The song like Suicide is also a crazy tuning that I can't remember right now. I have to look it up. But a lot of crazy tunes, but I don't remember Euphoria Morning as being an album that has a lot of crazy tunings on it. It's just got crazy arrangements and chord changes and stuff like that. There's 2 videos of me playing like Disappearing One and then When I'm Down, I think. There are 2 lessons that I made for Chris that are because he wanted to learn how to play. It's like those songs were probably largely arranged. Natasha was involved in making that record, right? The 11 folks and Euphoria Morning record. And a lot of those songs I don't think were arranged really on guitar, and they probably just laid down overdubs and stuff. But he wanted like solo guitar arrangements of those songs so he could play them live. So he said, "Can you come up with a thing?" So in a hotel room, I was on tour with Don Henley actually at that point, and he was getting ready to go start the songbook stuff. I made him lessons, on how to here's some guitar arrangements. I figured out how to play all the chords from these songs. So those are on YouTube if you want to check them out. They're in my lesson playlist. But yeah, those are, and they look terrible because they're literally in a dark hotel room, but they're good enough to figure out the chords and stuff. That's what those were for. They were for him. Scott is in the top chat and he says, "Nice to meet you yesterday. What's your thoughts on FX8 versus Line 6 HX effects?" Nice to meet you as well, good sir. FX8 versus Line 6 HX effects. Well, my thoughts are the FX8 is going to be in typically kind of Axe effects or Fractal fashion. It's a really deep device like that you can get way inside and do all kinds of different stuff with. The HX effects is a simpler device, which isn't to say that one's better or worse. It's just a simpler, if you want less of a learning curve and stuff, the HX effects is probably your speed, but the FX8 is great and sounds really good and is deep. So it depends how deep you want to go, If you're like Alex Lifeson or something, I would probably, the FX8, like somebody that's got I don't know. I mean, the Edge, these guys that like really getting inside and the rigs, and getting into but if you're more like, if your attention span is shorter or you just don't want to get so deep into programming, which I'm not saying that the Helix isn't capable of some really cool stuff because it is. It's a pretty deep. All these things are like, wow, like if you told us 30 years ago that we would have these things and this ability of, that level of processing power in some little box that you could put on the floor, we'd all be like knocked out, right? So, anyways, but I would say that the main difference between the two is just the level of the sort of the learning curve and how deep you can go, the damn chat jumped to the end again. Any noticeable latency playing into your DAW? That is from FB Bled up in the top chat, or F8 Bled. Any noticeable latency playing into your DAW? So I have a little bit because I have to set my buffer depending on what I got going in my sessions. It's either at 64 or 128. At 128, I feel a little bit of something, but it doesn't really bother me. 256, it's like way too much for me. 64 is really good, like, really good. But 128 is like acceptable, and I can cut parts, and it doesn't really bother me that much. That's the truth. I burped. Okay. Steven says, is Chuck Levin's music in DC possibly on your upcoming SOAR tour, like clinics? I haven't heard about that. Although there's one in, I have heard about Baltimore. So that's not far from DC at all. So something's happening in that area, I think. Yeah. Did you ever feel like giving up on guitar in the beginning, says Austin White? Not really. No, I always was pretty driven in the beginning. I loved it. Like I'd found my thing. I was kind of obsessed with it, to tell you the truth. When I got to be about 14, there was a kid that moved into my neighborhood that kind of kicked me in the ass. And that was a little hard because he was so good. And he was kind of a legend in my hometown, really. But without that, it's that inspiration of maybe a peer sometimes that, like, pushes you to get better. I was really kind of playing catch up a little bit, but he could play like Van Halen like nothing. It was amazing. He was really good at it, and Steve Vai and stuff, and he could really nail that stuff. And that was 14, 15, 16, and so I was practicing a lot then to try and get up to that level if I could. He just had a really natural talent. Another Eddie Van Halen question. Arthur says, what Van Halen album do you feel Eddie had the best tone? For me, it was the Balance album. That's interesting. His tone was amazing all the way around. Balance has its own thing going on, I've gone back and listened to that record, because for me, it was the early ones, really. But I have gone and sort of said, okay, I'm going to listen to Balance all the way through today, or listen to the FUCK album, or whatever. We listen to all of them, like, and really get trying to get inside the sound and stuff like that, and the parts, and there's great stuff on Balance. I agree. For me, the best, God, man, it's really hard to say. I like them all. Probably the, like, sort of tonally, maybe the ones that sound like, I don't even want to say it's bad, because they weren't bad. They were like good tones, but they sound a little more rushed to me. As far as the first 6 albums were probably Diver Down. But then again, you got Secrets on Diver Down, which is amazing. And I think it's DI. So it's like, it's a different thing. Hang 'em High and stuff. But that was what people call his broken sound, kind of, that album period where he like maybe had the one coil in his pickup that wasn't working and stuff. And it's a little weaker sounding, but still great. It doesn't matter because it's really mostly coming out of his hands and all that. Some of the best. I mean, I love Van Halen 1, but I love Van Halen 2, because Van Halen 1's got that slightly dirtier, I think it's the super distortion and the JBL speakers that were the different thing, and the Van Halen 2 is more like PAF and just Marshall cranked. It's got that raw thing. Like, listen to DOA or whatever, the beginning of that. It's so cool. It's just that's raw Marshall at its finest. It's just so cool. And then Fair Warning is, a lot of his tones on, like, I think about the flange on the beginning of Hear About It Later, that's like, God, it's beautiful sounding. What an amazing guitar sound, people don't always mention stuff like that. It's so gorgeous sounding, with the tapping on Beautiful Girls, maybe he played that on a Strat, I think, the intro. God, sounds good. Some of the cleaner stuff that he did. So cool. Yeah. Okay. When are you going to do Amp in the Zone for Vox amps? Well, I have it there, and I got the baffle out, and I got mics and everything so soon, but I just can't do it before. I gotta do this Queen gig next week, and then I'll come back and get on it. So it'll probably come out later this month. The Vox one. I'm gonna have that AC30. There's another AC30 that's here that I want to incorporate as well, just to see how it sounds. That used to be, I found out it used to be Tim Pierce's, actually. And he says it's absolutely his favorite one that he's ever had. So I've got access to that. So 2 mid-60s AC30s. And I've also got a divided by 13 right there, pointing at it with my thumb. that is a RSA 31, so kind of a boutique AC30. And then I've got a little AC15 sitting over here, hand wired. That sounds good. It's not been floating my boat as much as these. When you hear the vintage one, you're like, oh shit, this sounds so good. Best bridge pickup for the EVH tone, says the Old Guys Guitar Vlog. A lot of Eddie questions today. It depends what era you're going for. I would say any Alnico 5 PAF for Van Halen 2 and on. For Van Halen 1, you kind of need super distortion, in my opinion. That's just, I'm pretty sure that's what I think was in his guitar, the Mighty Mite version, right? You know, Mighty Mite DiMarzio super distortion clone. And then supposedly Duncan wound the Duncan Custom, you know, to be that pickup as well. It's a 14K ceramic magnet, same spec, you know, pickup that Duncan for a while advertised as the Van Halen pickup in about 1979 until Eddie was like, what the hell? And then Duncan quit doing that. But that was a falling out for sure. Yeah. So there had to be a reason that Seymour Duncan made a pickup and called it the Van Halen pickup. That was a 14K ceramic, right? And I'm going to say it's because Van Halen won. Look for the clues. The clues. The PT Sig is nicely made, wonderfully presented, says Solar Guitar Studio. Tell me you're not talking about the Harley Benton guitar that somebody said your model. Not my model. My model's a Sir. Damn it. Tell me you're telling me about the Sir, right? That's what you're talking about. Preston Smith says never owned a Fender. Kind of rare around here, I think. Where are you? Fenders are everywhere, aren't they? No. Okay. Moving down. Cambodia 69 does make a good point. He's saying for early Van Halen, the classic 6-screw Fender tremolo with bent saddles is what he used, and he says the Floyd Rose has a shittier sound. I mean, it's true. If you want to get like the first album thing, you better go super distortion and have a Fender style bridge because it is a different sound for sure. It's a different resonance or something. Is that Jimi Hendrix's poster behind you? Dig. That's Jimmy back there. Yeah, that is Jimmy. Pete is, oh, I already answered that one. Sorry. Seasons is funky, says Love Dog. Yep, as his dad tried to live. Yes, F's and C's. Yeah, that's right. And you need to kind of replace the G string with a, if you want to play Seasons Dad Tried to Live or My Wave, you got to replace the G string with a B gauge. So a lighter, you know, an 11 or something. You put on where the G goes and then you tune it up. Or on the acoustic, you know, similar, like whatever, what's a 11, 14 or something on a second string on an acoustic guitar, something like that. 16, I guess, for acoustic. Let's see. Jennifer is cracking me up. She says, the Day I Tried to Live should be renamed by anyone who tries to do it as the Day I Tried to Sing. That's funny. I know, that's true. Yeah, so that's a bitch, the chorus. Not too many people can pull that off. Okay. It's a couple of people are asking about Sir like clinic tour dates. We're talking about July for US stuff. End of June, there's one that hasn't been announced yet, so I don't want to say the places or anything. But end of June, July for some US clinics. And then September for some Europe stuff is kind of what we're looking at now, but nothing's on the books yet. So I'll let you know when we actually book some stuff for sure. But I hope to go to Europe in September. Europe in the fall. That's my hope. Sounds nice to me. What's up with the new Wilkinson locking whammy? Still nothing online, says Paul. If you look on the Sir site or if you email them about it, evidently they've sold a few to customers, although I don't know that they're doing that much. A few people have ordered them off their website and have received theirs. But they're mainly reserving them, as far as I know, for my guitars, for the ones that they can get, because they got to make sure. Trev Wilkinson's a great guy. He's awesome and he makes great stuff. From what I understand, sometimes the production can be like you know, he's like got issues like anybody, like delivering sometimes things like totally on time and stuff. So when you get a bunch of orders for guitars and you got a bridge that could potentially hold up the whole works, right? Because that's the bridge that goes on the guitar. They just want to make sure they got enough for my guitars. So I'm not saying Trev's not, you know, a stand-up guy or what he is. You know, he's a really cool guy and stuff. But like anything, it's like, you know, when you get, you know, all of a sudden something popular or whatever, and you get orders for 100 or 200 or 300 of these things, it's like they can only make so many at a time, right? And so Sir is conservative with what they expect to get, and they're just careful about it so they don't run into issues where somebody orders one of my guitars and then they can't get it. So that's the thing. Pete, Wes Montgomery, how big of an influence has he been on you? I bought like a Wes Montgomery like 4 CD set, and I have that somewhere. You know, I don't even have a CD player anymore, but I listened to that a lot for a while, but I never really practiced his stuff. I loved his melodic sense though, and just his songs, like all the tunes on those CDs. I can't name you one of them right now. I honestly can't, but I loved listening to it, and I would put on a lot and listen to, you know, his thumb and the octaves that he would do and stuff, and it was a really neat sound, like melodically. So that's about the extent of it. I'm not a jazz player, but I did enjoy listening to my Wes Montgomery CDs. This is like going back. I bought them in the 90s, I think. Okay, moving down. Lucky Lick says, please tell us how Dimebag has influenced your life. I wouldn't say that he's influenced my life really, and what you've learned from him. You know, I'm not even, he's another guy that I'm not super familiar with, although what I've heard, I like the arc in his solos, you know, like how they had a start and a middle and a finish, and they just had this really great arc to them. And I also like that he did things differently, and he seemed to be somebody that was very true to himself musically. So that's what I'll say about him. Like him and his brother just did their own path, you know, and you know, I had one crazy night actually with his brother and a bunch of people, you know, Chris Cornell days where, or not Chris, he wasn't involved, but the touring guys, we all ended up going to his brother's club in Dallas, and then afterwards going back to his party pad at his house, which was, by the time I got there, I was talking about drinking. I was like 3 sheets to the wind, and I remember he had a neon sign above the door that said Vinny's Place or something, Vinny's Playhouse or something like that. And yeah, I don't remember much of that night after, like, we were just drinking way too much and stuff, and it was fun. But he brought we played in, is it Houston or Dallas? It's Dallas, and he brought his own tour bus to our gig. So Vinnie Paul shows up in a tour bus, like a Prevost, like behind the venue, you know, and with like his own entourage, and watched our gig. And then, you know, we might have gone on the bus after to his club, or we might have made our own way. I can't remember. I don't remember. But 2007, I remember partying with Vinnie Paul. Okay. Looking for more questions. Just going to kind of go down more towards the end of the chat here. I'm sure someone has already asked, but what was your first guitar? Says Drew. It was a Hondo Strat. It was blue, and it's on the cover of Guitar Nerd. That was my first guitar. Although my sister was in a guitar class in school where they had rented nylon strings, and she brought home a nylon string guitar, and I practiced a little bit on that. Like, I can remember, just, God, wow, like this distinct memory just popped into my head of practicing Stairway to Heaven when I was like 10 or so, sitting on my bed in my room. And like, I hadn't thought about that for 40 years, but whatever, you know. But yeah, I remember sitting there playing on that guitar, the nylon string, before I got my guitar. And then Christmas morning that I got my guitar was a real special day. I remember like getting a little Trainer 10-watt amp and opening up God, it's a good memory. Makes me choked up, to be honest. I'm so excited to get my own guitar, and I remember my first pedals too. It was an analog chorus that was a Amec or something it was called, or Am. It was like an off-brand with probably a CE2 clone or something like that. And then I had a Boss SD1, I think, or OD1, Overdrive, you know, with like the 3 knobs, volume, tone, and drive. And that was it. It was my rig for a while. Arthur says, hi from BC, just took a break from chainsawing to hang with you. Arthur, you realize that's like it's a great stereotype, you know, picturing you a lumberjack up in BC, you know, just doing some yard work. I don't know. Getting ready for the winter. Get the firewood going. That's awesome, dude. I miss BC. I really do. For those that don't know much about British Columbia, if you've never been there, it's the size of Washington, the size of Washington, Oregon, Washington. That was Oregon and Washington combined. The size of Washington, Oregon, and California combined is BC. It's absolutely massive, and almost all the people are just down there in Vancouver and the island, which is beautiful too. Vancouver Island, if you've never been there, gorgeous. But you know, the rest of that province is just vast, gorgeous. You know, it's a wonderful place. So take a vacation, go to BC. Drive from Vancouver, you know, go to the island with your car on a ferry, and then drive through BC to, you know, Banff, which is in Alberta, but not that far from the border. You know, you can go to Radium Hot Springs, Fairmont Hot Springs, which I used to vacation at when I was a kid. You know, book a room there and just hang. And Radium Hot Springs, Fairmont Hot Springs, beautiful places. And if you've never been to Banff, get ready because it looks like Switzerland. It's if you want to take a great trip and you've never been to BC, take a car trip from Vancouver and do that book, you know, do it in, you know, 10 days to 2 weeks. Just take some time. What a great place. Greetings from the Olympic Peninsula. Looking forward to Victoria, BC on All Is Not Lost. There is a percussive sound. There's somebody up in BC as well. Scott, in the top chat. Sorry, I'm all over the map here. On All Is Not Lost, there is a percussive sound at the 15-second mark. How is it done? When all is not lost. Dude, I'm going to have to listen. Oh, I can't right now. Where's my phone? I'm gonna find it in my Apple Music and then take a listen to it and see if I can. All is not lost. A percussive sound. Is that the thing that comes in? That's Eric and his China. All is not lost in Apple Music. See if it comes up. Of course, when you're looking for your own stuff, you can never find it. Pete, sorry guys, this is going to get boring for a minute. Pete Thorn and artists. I really need to listen to it. Let's see. Top songs. There's Pete Thorn 2. There's my album. All is not lost. Oh, so this would be a loop. This whole thing in All Not Lost is something that Steve Stevens did. It's this, right? So that's a loop that Steve came up with. But Steve did this. I love this song because it's got so much of Steve's personality in it. You know, that sort of progressive thing that he into this. That's a plug-in. Closing down on the guitar sound. So the loop that you're talking about is something that Steve came up with. You know, that was really a collaboration with him, full on. Like, really, he wrote the bridge of the song. He should have songwriting credit on it. He may. Not that that'll ever amount to, you know. But basically, it just, you know, he came up with all the synth stuff and that particular chord progression and stuff for a piece. I did a video for, it was called the Vintage Revolution Pedal Pro or something. I think it was like an analog rack mount thing with its own dedicated foot controller that's analog effects in a rack mount unit. So going back to maybe it was 2014 or 2013 that I did a demo for that thing. You can hear the original demo of that piece of music. That's what I did. And then, so if you watch that video and hear that song, then you'll hear the extra stuff that I added to the song. And it was really, you know, largely based around Steve's chords that he came up with there at the beginning and the little drum loop and stuff. Because I do a whole breakdown in the middle section. There's a nylon string guitar solo, and then the electric comes in and kind of builds after that. And at some points, the nylon and the electric are playing at the same time in harmony. So I was just trying to kind of like, you know, make it really dynamic. Are you a better player today than when you performed on all the late night shows? That's an interesting question from David. I'm different. My writing's way more advanced. Um, I've developed different skill set. Technically, I'm probably not any faster or cleaner or any of that stuff, but I've got different skills for sure. Like I'm a more well-rounded musician for sure, definitely, than I was then. I don't about a better like. I guess the more well-rounded musician would lead me to probably make more sophisticated, like or a wider palette of musical choices or whatever than I had when I was on those shows. But technically, I was, when I was doing those shows, I was playing a lot and probably touring a lot and playing out a lot at night and stuff and doing gigs and touring gigs and stuff like that. So I had a skill set, I guess, that at that point that I just wasn't working on my writing chops a lot and stuff. I hadn't had a record out or any of that. It's 1:17. The last hour flew by like nothing, for me. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it was torture, but for me, it went quick. So I'm gonna hang for another 10 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna split. Line 6, Helix LT, Boss GT1000, or Headrush. Which one and why? These are impossible questions to answer. Some of the most common questions are which modeler and why. And I always say, you just have to. The Headrush has, especially the little one, is real compact. Has a great touch screen on it. You can move things around if you're just using an iPad or a phone. That's pretty cool. It does sound really good. The Line 6 has a nice balance of simplicity and a great editor, and yet is relatively deep. It's a little bit deeper device than the Headrush. Like when it comes to the types of effects, there's more options, is what I'm getting at. The Boss GT1000 is the one that I'm the least familiar with. So don't know that much about it. Haven't used it. Don't have one here. So I don't have a lot of experience with that. Thoughts on the Sur Eclipse? Saw John Shanks using one. Really nice unit, co-designed with Kevin Sur and John, great with the overall fine-tunable top end control so that you can use it into really bright amps or darker amp, and you can close down. It's kind of like a really aggressive filter that you can just close down. So if you've got an overly bright amp, you're going to be able to tune the Eclipse to an amplifier quite easily. It's not like as aggressive sounding as maybe even the Riot or the certainly like the BEOD or something like that. It's a slightly different sound, a little more like think like JCM 800 or something like that. It's kind of got that going on. That's my take on that. Really good distortion box, that's nice and versatile. And maybe for those who don't realize, the Eclipse, although it looks like it's got a lot of controls, is basically just two sets of controls duplicated so that it can kind of be almost like the PT15, where you got two channels that are dirty, 2 and 3, but it's really the same channel, just with two sets of gains and masters. Well, this has two sets of gains and masters and two 3-band EQs. So you can, set a different gain level and more mids or something for your lead tone. That's a really good question. Pedro says, how many pedals do you send back because they don't inspire you? I've got my policy about now making videos of things I don't like. It's pretty rare, to be honest. It doesn't really happen that much. I find that these days, I always use the coffee analogy. Like, used to be maybe many years ago, there was like a lot of crappy effect pedals and then a few good ones, but there was like way fewer effect pedals out, right? Well, now you've got great coffee everywhere. And part of that I attribute to just like there's the demand there for it, but originally it was sort of Starbucks and Pete's and those companies that really drove that demand. Like all of a sudden you could get pretty good coffee just about anywhere. Coffee used to, like, a lot of people are like, oh, Starbucks. It's like, but that, you got to remember where we started from. Like, it's like there was Folgers at most places, Maxwell House, right? It was like shit when you went to order a coffee somewhere, and then you'd maybe get a good cup of drip coffee, some like a pour over or something at some specialty place. But those places were few and far between. Then Starbucks comes out, and they up the game, right? So what you've got now is this thing where, with pedals, there's so many good ones out there. Like, it would be really difficult to have a successful, like, how could you have a bad pedal? It's a difficult thing unless you're a really small manufacturer. Like, you're not going to see somebody like Boss or at this point, like MXR or something. They're not going to put out something that doesn't sound good. They've got George Trips working there. They got too many great players and different. They know that there's no point in putting out something that is substandard, or because there's 80 other things on the market that'll just kill it, and it'll be money poorly invested, right, into the R&D of getting that product out. So I find for me, that means that I'm getting stuff that just works most of the time. I'm plugging things in and go, that sounds great. That sounds great. That sounds great. I can get a tone out of a lot of things, at least a good sound, if not a great sound. And as long as it sounds good and it's inspiring, I can write a cool riff, then I'm in, then I can do it. So maybe once every couple months, something will come through and I'm just like, I just don't really get this thing. It's not working out for me. Which doesn't even mean that it doesn't work or that it's not going to be somebody else's favorite pedal, you know? What's your absolute favorite overdrive pedal? Says Dawn Prater. As far as overdrives go, good clones for me are kind of the like if I'm looking for once again, this gets into like, are you looking for an ampy kind of rhythm drive or a solo boost? Because for me, it's different. But let's say like the solo boost kind of thing. Right now, I've got the Archer on my board and it's the special kind of Jeff Beck one. And for me, that's just hitting that into a Marshall dirt crunchy sound is really great. It just works for me. It sends the lead channel into a nice singing, sustaining, fat MIDI overdrive that is just expressive and works great. I've got my new fascination with treble boosters happening again, which, by the way, I've loved treble boosters for a long time. It wasn't just this Brian May thing. I used a treble booster on the first song on my new record. The hell's the song called? Into Focus. That's that sound going way back. When I first wrote that riff, like 2013 or something like that, 2014, I used the 65 treble booster, I think, or was it might have been a color sound one, but anyway, I can't remember. But anyway, it was a treble booster going into and with a telly into a dirty amp. A treble booster is just a snarly, nasty, like killer thing. So I'm a big fan of that sound too. But let's just say I want to find a treble booster and put it on my board. The problem with treble boosters is that, like the Brian May ones, it's germanium, and the issue is you don't want to put them after a buffer because they just don't sound the same. So I noticed in the recent rig rundown that Premier Guitar did with Brian May is that he's got his treble boosters on a strap. So he's coming out of the guitar into the treble booster, out of the treble booster into the wireless, and then sending out to the amp. So he's got a small one mounted on a strap. That's where his treble boosters are now. So it's a finicky thing, That was a rant, coffee fueled rant. Winston Churchill says gas is killing my bank account. We shall never surrender. Mike is in the top chat. Oh, a few folks in the top chat. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate that. Mike says, Pete, how do you organize, store, and keep up with all your pedals? That's a great question. My significant other, Brittany, helped me recently do a spreadsheet document, Google Doc, to organize pedals. And I got some bins from the store, and I have bins numbered, and I just put my pedals in the bins, and then I can look on the spreadsheet and see so-and-so's in bin 5 because I have a lot of pedals. So that worked quite well. Make a Google Doc and make categories of like overdrives and distortions and delays and modulations or something, and then with different colors in each one, and then just with you can put them in a bin or something and just tell yourself in the spreadsheet what number. So I sound more organized than I am because I'm a slob, but she designed it and actually did a really nice job on it. Vetchap is up in the top chat. Thanks, man. Hopefully this will buy you a couple of tequila drinks. I'm gonna have a nice margarita on Vetchap tonight. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thanks for all your wonderful information. Love your show. You're too kind. Hey, let me take this opportunity just for a moment to say, every week I come here and I don't know if anybody's going to show up, and you guys always do. And I don't know. It's an honor, and the pleasure's all mine. And I thank you for being here. And if I can continue to do this as long as people are interested, I'll be here. So thank you guys for every Sunday for being here, and happy Cinco de Mayo. I do appreciate it. A few more questions here, and then I'm going to split. Was Danny Grehan? That's the guy from asking if he was an influence on me. Thoughts on his playing tone technique. That's the dude from Honeymoon Suite, right? For sure, I liked his playing. Recently in that 5 Canadian guitar solos video I did, which is maybe going back a year and a half now or something, or 2 years almost. It's not that recent, but I played his solo from what was the Honeymoon Suite song? New Girl Now. What a great solo in that song. It's kind of Van Halen sort of, I don't know, it's just a really fun solo. He's a great guitar player, man. Like, honestly, just a So yeah, I grew up listening to him. The other guy, I always forget the name of the band. It's not Harlequin, because I like that band a lot. Another Canadian great rock band. The band from the East Coast that starts with H. Oh shit, I'm forgetting the name of this guy. He was such a good guitar player. I want to go back and listen to him again, because he was a terrific player. I can't remember the dude's name right now. Anyways, it'll come to me. Please like Guitar Hack interview, says 2 and 3 chord jams up in the top chat. Dude, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If this is all my Cinco de Mayo money, I'm going to be hammered at the end of the night. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. I'll have one nice margarita later. You guys are too kind. Thanks for doing the top chat. 2 and 3 chord jams. You're saying, please let Guitar Hack interview you. Okay. Have him hit me up. And Kelly Cowan, excuse me, is in the top chat. He's up in Canada. You guys are too kind. Thank you. Really, 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 really kind folks. And what is GAS or GAS? That is Gear Acquisition Syndrome. That's a question from John Hernandez. Just the fact that you said that means that you're not affected by it and that you're healthier than the rest of us. Dennis is in the top chat. Thank you, man. Thanks for all you do. Thanks, man. You guys really appreciate it. You guys are too kind. Honestly, my kids are killing my bank account, says Tom, not gas. See, that's the secret. I don't have kids, right? So all those dudes with no kids, we can buy guitars and pedals and stuff like that. I know that would be over. The day that situation changes is the day that I start selling things and start looking at Pampers, and then it moves on from there to college and etc. Right? Yeah, we're taking a family vacation this year where I can't take a guitar. How do you get it back after 2 weeks and no guitar? That's Q-Stick 333. I recently went to Hawaii and I took 5 days off from guitar, and I love it. I love getting away from it. I didn't miss it. And I don't mean that like I'm not excited about it. It's just to get away from it for a minute and then come back to it fresh. I really cherish that, actually. You don't necessarily have your bends aren't quite as in tune and you need to warm up a little bit, but you're fresh and you come back and the ideas are there. It's like you can come back to it and you're not quite technically there, but it's more fun, like having been away from it for a minute. And that's important, So I think a little break from it every now and then is really good, actually. So don't worry about it too much, I got right back into it and I had to start learning the Queen material. And when I got back from vacation and within a few days it comes back, and, you don't want to push yourself too much because you don't want to hurt your hands or whatever, but, just practice a little bit first. It'll be back in a few days. Enjoy the time away from it for a minute. And you'll be excited to come back and play. It's fresh when it comes back. It's exciting again. The Tired Horizon says, Helix for cabs. Oh, you're talking amongst yourselves, I think. Oh, I see. You're suggesting the Helix over the Boss. Helix for echoes, chorus, and cab IRs. Drives are great. Boss if you want to split and mix more chains. So the Boss you think is more sophisticated, the GT1000, than the Helix as far as doing more complex routing. I see. And I would say that the Headrush is probably the simplest of them all when it comes to the routing and stuff like that. Yeah. That's Jimmy. I thought it was Andre 3000 because Andre 3000 kind of looks like Jimmy, right? Yeah. We get together. Oh, we get together. Tom is in the top chat. Is there more cannabis use in California because it is legal? I have a medical card and it helps with my neuropathic pain from a dog bite to my hand that tore 3 tendons. Oh, sorry to hear that. That sucks. Yeah, there's a lot of cannabis use in California. It's pretty much everywhere. You can walk down the street and go, whoa, that's just wafting up from, we definitely noticed that. What's funny is with that is that I went away a lot. I mean, I was in France 2013 and then 2014. I was in Japan and then Japan for 6 months of 2015. And the whole marijuana thing was kind of ramping up during that time. And I was away a lot. And then I would come back. And every time I'd come back to the States, I'd be like, is it just me or is there like pot everywhere now? And it was a real obvious thing that was like, where it was just people weren't afraid of the enforcement anymore. And it was, but with that, I would say that, the interesting thing, I am of the opinion that it hasn't created more problems, with anything, I could be statistically, maybe I'm wrong, but if I don't know, somebody send me some statistics if I'm wrong, but it seems like it's, and it has been a, successful regulation and whatever, and taxation and rather than trying to push something down that's not, it seems like it's been a good policy and beneficial. So, but yeah, it's kind of everywhere. It is everywhere, I would say. Yeah, I know. All right, 132. I'm gonna go to 135, and then I'm gonna split 3 more minutes. Yeah. It changed my life for the better in moderation, like anything, says Tom. Yeah, I believe everything in moderation is a good thing, you don't want to overdo anything. You don't want to be, I would never want anything in my life, certainly, to become a crutch, something that I'm relying on. It's better, if you can, I don't know. I don't think I'm necessarily like addictive compulsive personality, but as I've grown older, I've become, how you get, as you get older, you get more fearful of things, like maybe like your own mortality. Like, so like for certain, like eating too many hamburgers is something that you think about, or hopefully you do. Like as you get towards 50 or something, because you're like, oh, I got to watch my cholesterol, or I got to watch my, and so in the same spirit, like with things like that, I'm very aware of, certainly with like, hard drugs and stuff like that. And we see people go away to, you think about John Entwistle or like Kevin DuBrow, like at 52, I think, dying of, he was, using cocaine or whatever. And that's just like, man, you don't do that at that age. Like, like maybe when you were younger, but it's like, you got to respect, like you're getting older, and you like, even if you're not a heavy user, it's just like, don't just like, there's so many examples of, I'm not preaching, but I'm just like, honestly, from a scientific perspective, it's like, man, when you're, your arteries and things, you're aging, it's like, just be careful and be aware of your own, so I'm in my own life anyway, when it comes to moderation of, of pretty food or of, anything, it's like, I try and be really aware of that stuff. That's just how I roll, like I don't, even though I feel like, oh, I'm good, I don't really have an addictive compulsive personality or whatever, I try and be aware that isn't necessarily always going to be the case. Like that, I just, like anybody, could fall off the deep end and go too far into something and justify before it's too late. So if it comes to pot use or anything, like you just said, Tom, it's like in moderation, that is really the key. If you can moderate things, just keep a healthy, like, check yourself, stand above yourself, sort of, and go, is this an issue? Am I, like, am I getting work done like I used to, or whatever? Am I, being an effective human being, or is something getting a hold of me? Is there a monkey on my back or whatever? I don't know. That goes for anything. So that's just how I do things. In Canada, weed is just like booze, says Chris Tat. Finally, no more politics, just choices. Yeah, I mean, like, people are going to do what they want to do, right? Whether or not you want to do it, it's like you got to recognize other people are going to. So it's like, it's better to just recognize that human beings have, it's like good, effective, regulation of some sort, but not limiting people in their, naturally things that they're going to go do anyway. Obviously, people have been smoking pot forever, so I don't know. It's just a more prudent path, I think, that seems to make sense. You can help people make better choices and provide resources. That's just what society's helpful with, I don't know. Blah, blah. Listen to me. We're not talking about guitar, are we? Okay. I better split, but a man has got to know his limitations. Clint Eastwood. That's right. That's a great quote. We should end on that. A man's got to know his limitations. So do you, punk? Clint. All right, you guys, I'm going to split. Time to go. I'm actually going to go play through some Queen songs right now. And then I'm going to crank up these amps back here and start doing some things with some microphones and see how that sounds. One of the things I want to do soon is get out some PT15 mic'd up demos, so you guys can just hear the raw amp. Like, everything's been focused on the IR capability and stuff, but I want you to just hear the channels in the amp. So that's part of why I got the mics going, in addition to getting ready to do a Vox amps in the zone video. So that's all stuff that's coming soon. More PT15 mic'd up stuff. I think I'm going to kind of go back to the days of like when I did the first Badger demo, where I just played some simple. I played like the Rebel riff or something like that. And then I pick a few simple guitar riffs to play through the amp at different gain levels to show some more of the tones and stuff like that. Maybe some familiar things. I don't really do that anymore. I like more write songs and all that now. But for this one, I think maybe, I don't know, just some simple stuff. So maybe I'll play Sultans of Swing or something on the clean channel and just some simple riffs, so you guys can hear what the thing can do. All right, hey, thanks again for being here. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. I'll have I don't know, Queen gig stories next time. Queen experience gigs next time. We see each one another. I think I've had too much coffee. Time for lunch. See ya.